mga last minute. Sabi ko, please check your email. One more. Just in case. Kasi meron pang mga talagang delinquente, last minute talagang humihingi.
Sino yan? Sino?
Yung mga huli daw nag-register.
Ha?
Yung mga huli nag-register, bigyan mo lang sila ng isa pang round ng kanta. Ang last round lang.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our simple event today. Do I sound clear? Can you please give me a thumbs up in your Zoom if I sound clear? Thank you so much. Thank you. Hello, hello. Good evening, po. Ayan po. So this is a simple event to um to help us know more about the updates of homeschooling in the Philippines. Although this is intended for parents who are homeschooling for the first time or exploring homeschooling for the first time, this is also very useful to parents who have been homeschooling and who might want to know the latest going on, especially the just released a department order of the DepEd regarding the revised homeschooling policy. Ayan po. So we're going to just briefly go through the basics of homeschooling. And after this short presentation, of course, we're going to welcome questions, sharing, especially since I'm joined by experienced homeschoolers. Okay, so I see some of our parent teachers. Maraming salamat po for joining us today. We also have our parent leaders and our teachers. And I don't know if Doc Marlu and Mom Joy will also join us a little bit later. But anyway po, before we officially begin, let's have a prayer and dedicate this time to God.
Dear God, thank you for all the blessings you have bestowed upon us. We are truly grateful for them. Thank you for allowing us today to meet and share our knowledge and time with one another. May you extend your divine wisdom to us that we may be able to impart knowledge on homeschooling to those who need it. Bless all participants so that they would be able to glean the vital information from this activity. May you bestow blessing after this webinar so that we may spread what we learned in the spirit of your love and generosity. May we realize that this activity should glorify your name. Amen.
Amen. All right, so now that you're focused on your screen, we're going to our first page now. Again, we're trying to make this as quick as possible because I know that many parents are busy and it's also dinner time. Well, you can have your dinner while listening to our presentation.
Left click on the screen.
Which one?
Just left click on the screen.
Left click? Yeah, this one work.
Or press the arrow key.
Okay, the arrow key would work. Okay, so we're going to address the 5 basic headings here, the questions. Okay, so what homeschooling is actually and what homeschooling is really like in different families here in the Philippines. And of course, Filipinos who are living abroad. And then we're going to briefly discuss the revised homeschooling policy or the DO 001 Series 2022, which was released last January 21, 2022. We're also going to briefly discuss and reframe flexible learning in what you would call the open curriculum. You keep on hearing this, especially in homeschooling communities. Open curriculum po ba? Pwede pang mag-enroll pag open curriculum. Okay, we're going to try to define it so that you can understand what it really means in the context of the DepEd learning standards. Okay, and of course, we're going to also define your role as the parent teacher. Ano po yung ating mga roles and responsibilities. And lastly, okay, I'm going to invite you to rethink education, for the real world, the world where our children will eventually live in and thrive, hopefully with our guidance. So can I have this here? Thank you.
I'm trying.
Okay, so we begin by a brief definition of homeschooling by maybe mentioning what it is not. And so what is not homeschooling? Okay, so when you say we have a group of 50 to 60 students and they have the same strict schedule, okay, and then they're of the same age level, so technically speaking that is regular schooling, and that is not homeschooling. When you say all children in grade 1 should know everything that is taught and should be learned in grade 1, when you expect them all to be on grade level, so lahat ng grade 3, yung knowledge nila pare-pareho dapat grade 3, then in a way that is not homeschooling. Okay, and lastly, it is not homeschooling if you assume that learning only takes place in a classroom in the presence of a credentialed teacher. Okay, because I would be wary of using the word teacher, because I believe that all of us are teachers, okay, in different context. Okay, so just briefly, strict schedule, pare-pareho ng inaaral, pare-pareho ng timeline, pare-pareho yung tinitignan na what do you call this, na materials, learning materials, and then you expect them all to learn the material at the same time, nang walang differentiation. Okay, and then you assume that only the teacher can teach the children. Technically, yun po yung mga hindi talaga siya homeschooling. All right, so I know that so many are lost in translation because, oh, when you're at home, when you're learning, or when you're teaching your child, you're homeschooling, right? Okay, that's not so. But if you say, for example, just try to bring home whatever it is that you're doing in a regular school, tapos sabay-sabay pa din, strictly, say for example, in this first quarter, all of you are learning these topics, and then all of you should be able to submit the following. You should be taking the same quizzes and all that. So that's not homeschooling. Okay, so what exactly is homeschooling then? Okay, so homeschooling essentially is intentional parenting. Now, for so many of you, you've already read so much literature perhaps about homeschooling. Ang dami pong blogs, ang dami pong lumalabas na mga homeschooling books. At pag nag-search ka lang ng homeschooling, ang dami pong lalabas na mga, na definitions, right? But I want you to go into this particular concept, which is called intentional parenting. So actually, when I started homeschooling, ito po yung parati kong naririnig din. So we are intentional parents. We should do intentional parenting. What exactly does this mean? Okay, so from the word intentional, intent. So meron kang intention to really parent, and you have this awareness na merong effect at naaapektuhan yung anak mo sa lahat ng ginagawa mo sa iyong pagiging parent ng anak mo. Okay, let's put that in concrete examples. Say, if you're working and then maybe when you after working for the whole day, you're already tired, and so it is actually it can be a choice whether to spend more quality time with your child, or maybe relax with your child, watch TV together, or just rest together. Ano ba yung intention mo? If you intend to really share quality time with your child, then you have to carve it in your schedule. Whether you're working outside, you're working at home. Actually, yung mga sinasabi nilang stay at home mom, mas pagod po yun kaysa mga nag-uopisina actually. Di po ba? So you have to you intentionally parent when you know that there is an awareness, or you make that kind of commitment to spend time with your child, you knowing that your child absorbs everything and experiences learning with you. Whether that's good or the bad, hindi maganda. Kasi kapag dapat walang bad, you intentionally parent your child. I don't know if I'm going to offend some, when I say that sometimes I get, hindi lang sometimes, mas madalas. Okay, so teacher, I cannot homeschool anymore because I'm working. Teacher, I'm so tired, that's why I cannot really make time for my child, and so I'm going to hire teachers for my child. There's nothing wrong with outsourcing tutors to help you out. But the thing is, what you're trying to carve here is a relationship with your child so that you can intentionally teach and impart knowledge and values to your child. Yun yung intentional parenting. There are so many concrete examples of this. Perhaps mag-share yung ating mga parent leaders later. Okay, what else is homeschooling? When you are modeling and you are guiding. Okay, so as homeschooling parents, the reason why we're homeschooling, we are the primary influencers of our children. And so, since parati mas may magkakaroon ng chance yung mga anak natin to observe us, we have to have that kind of intention to model the good things and the right things to our child. Of course, that's not to say that we have to be perfect all the time. So, pero meron kang leaning towards perfection, susubukan mo. Kasi yun ang imo-model mo sa child mo. Sabi nga no isang speaker, I forget his name, he delivered a very powerful speech. Sabi niya, I always try to do my best. Do excellent things, do good things, and do beautiful things. Just in case my child is watching. Kasi whether we like it or not, our children look up to us, especially in their, younger years, formative years. So, paano ka mag-respond sa stress? Nagiging guilty tayo sa ganyan kasi umiinit din ang ulo natin, napapagod tayo, na-overwhelm tayo, nakakasigaw din tayo. But the initial reactions are okay as long as you know how to also explain, process, and even ask for apology kapag nagkamali tayo. So yun yung merong intention. Okay? We try our best to be the best versions of ourselves, but at the same time, if we commit mistakes, we should also have the humility to accept the mistakes and, of course, apologize accordingly. Role model. Hindi ibig sabihin perfect. Okay? And of course, one component of homeschooling is that we teach the academics. And so yan yung wala akong time, but it's not all academics. Okay, at the same time, mamaya I'm going to discuss with you yung formative years ng mga anak natin. Hindi naman kailangan, for example, physics genius ka or chemistry guru or, or dapat alam mo kaagad yung polynomials. Yung mga hindi kayang ituro yung mga technical things, When you teach lessons, when we say that, it's primarily teaching your children to read naturally, okay? So hindi mo nga siya kuminsan explicitly teach. You don't have to explicitly teach. You read aloud to them. You share stories with them. Make them aware of letters and formations. Like, say, for example, when you go out, you point, okay, so that's, say, for example, Jollibee or McDonald's. May letter recognition na yon. So, meron ka ng may mga tinuturo ka na talaga na academic component, even in a very informal setting. In fact, I always tell my children that I learned how to read with Sesame Street and reading the signages of establishments when we go outside. So yun, nag-start po doon. Of course, the read aloud also helps a lot. Ayan. So ito yung homeschooling. You intentionally parent, you model and you guide, and of course, you teach the lessons. Okay, so homeschooling is having authentic parent-child engagement. Okay, so I know we are all guilty of this when we want to really have our me time. Okay lang na magkaroon ng me time. Actually, we need it. But the thing is, when we actually connect with our children have to feel that they are interesting and that we're really focused on them and that we're really paying attention. Pag meron kasing gano'n na parent-child engagement, mas nakikinig yung anak mo sa'yo at makikinig ka sa anak mo. Doon kasi nagbi-build yung relationship. And of course, one other thing that would help would be to recognize the unique and whole person in the child. So for some of you who have been reading Charlotte Mason and other homeschooling books, makikita nyo na okay, so the child is not half a person or a youngerling. A child is a whole person and you have to treat the child as such. Di pa na siya nag-grow, pero isang whole person siya. And if you are able to grasp that concept, magkakaroon ka ng respeto sa kanya so that, you wouldn't treat your child like hindi siya importante or hindi mo na mamalay na nakikinig pala talaga sa'yo kapag may kausap ka na ibang tao. That's part of, recognizing the unique and whole person in the child, that you treat the child really as a person as you would an adult. All right. And then, of course, lastly, sa homeschooling, hindi po tayo nasa loob lang po ng bahay. Although, except for the time ng pandemic na talagang bawal lumabas. Ano po? Pero pre-pandemic time, homeschooling really is no holds barred. We really go out to so many, we really go to so many places. Not just museums, just pasyal ka lang kahit saan. Pwede sa labas ng bahay talaga, literally. Or you go to the mall, you go to the park. Or, it can be a simple get-together with other homeschooling families. Okay, so, learning happens anywhere. Hindi lang po sa loob ng bahay. Hindi lang po kapag umupo kayo sa isang table at nagbigay ng instruction at nagturo ng 1 plus 1 or 5 minus 2. No. Learning happens anywhere. So ano yung mga concrete examples ng nangyayari yung learning na ito? Well, magkukwentuhan lang kayong mag-asawa, for example, natututo na po na yung anak ninyo. Not just in terms of, the words and the sentence patterns that they hear, but also how you relate to each other. Nanood lang yan ng movie with you, natututo na po yan siya. Learning happens everywhere. Namasyal kayo, so your child becomes curious about the particular, say for example, a statue, and you explained it, natuto na po yung anak nyo. And so many, many, many other learning opportunities that can occur at home. So homeschooling is basically having this kind of authentic, loving, good relationship with your child. And that, that kind of relationship is infused with respect because you recognize the whole person in your child. And of course, you accept the fact that your child is learning no matter what. Kaya sabi nila, hindi po kasi siya pumasok sa school, kaya hindi po siya natuto. Well, hindi siya natuto ng mga ibang academics siguro na tinuturo sa school, but natuto po siya. In fact, that's why DepEd would even promote the DepEd TV, all of those YouTube videos that you see na mga, they are good components in your homeschooling kasi what our children really learn from whatever we expose them to. So my background is actually language teaching, and I've studied how a child acquires a language, and we saw the parallelism that a child acquires a knowledge in so many other respects. Okay, so pag sinabi mong language kasi nasa utak mo English lang yan or Filipino, but really language is the door that opens the opportunities for other learning, like history, science, and all that. So kaya yun yung most studied component ng learning, yung language, kasi siya yung susi. Okay, it's basically what you use to access information. It's what you use to share information, and so on and so forth. Okay, so homeschooling basically is this all of these factors, put in together. Ayan, nandun pa lang ako sa homeschooling kasi kailangan clear sa inyo, especially for those of you who are exploring homeschooling for the first time. Iba po siya kasi hindi siya yung naka-confine lang talaga sa school. Marami po kasi yung misconception na when you homeschool, you just study all the school concepts at home. It doesn't stop there. It's part of it, but it's not only that. Okay, so what is homeschooling really like in different families, especially here in the Philippines? Iba-iba po talaga itsura. So even when you talk about, say, homeschooling in the US, in the United States, each state has a different rules and regulations in homeschooling. So kunyari ang homeschooling sa Ohio, iba sa homeschooling sa California, iba sa Iowa, sa New Jersey, and so on. Okay, so iba-iba sila ng levels of strictness and leniency at yung mga requirements nila. Some would require an end of the year test, some would require submissions of certain documents, etc., etc. Now, here in the Philippines, meron tayo ding homeschooling policy, which we're going to discuss next. But let's look at the scenes muna sa Pilipinas. Ano ba itsura ng mga homeschoolers sa Philippines? Iba-iba po talaga, depende sa family. Okay? So, ang dami pong, kasi ang dami niyan eh. And ginawa ko na acronyms kasi ang hilig ng mga bata na mag-acronyms. So siguro yung first part there, alam niyo yan, yung SAHM, that's stay-at-home mom. Okay, so we have families, the stay-at-home mom and then daddy works. Or we have stay-at-home dad, mommy works. Meron ding daddy works and mommy works, okay? And then you have single mom, single dad. So ano naman yung LTO? Sabi ni Amber, lolo takes over. Actually, more on lola takes over. Pag wala si mommy, si daddy, nandun naman si lolo tsaka si lola to take over. Ano naman yung EFTO? Which I realized when I was doing my research. So by the way, why am I discussing this and why am I able to share with you? I'm primarily an educator, researcher, homeschool consultant, and a homeschooling mom, basically. Okay, so ito yung mga inaaral ko po at sinishare ko po sa inyo. Now, EFTO, which is now a common occurrence kasi kunyari may mga parents na nagtatrabaho abroad or nag-migrate, nandun muna yung parents na naiwan yung mga anak po dito sa Pilipinas, it's not really just lolo or lola who take over it. It's the extended family. So extended family members take over. So we have so many instances sa mga enrollees po namin na yung mommy, yung daddy nasa abroad, tapos yung anak nandito po sa Pilipinas kasama yung tita, yung tito, mga pinsan, pwede rin si lola, si lolo, and other relatives na magkasama sa isang household. And in a way, sila yung parang nagiging guardian or sila yung mas merong direct contact sa mga bata. Now, ito yung iba-ibang composition and size ng mga family sa Pilipinas. Mas marami sa atin actually yung EFTO or di naman EF lang, extended family. So, like for example, in our household, we have lola, okay, and in our friend's house, meron silang kasama nila, yung dalawa silang family sa isang bahay. So, yung dalawang magkapatid, nandun yung dalawang families plus the lolo and the lola or something to that effect, no? So, ganun yung scenario ng family sa Philippines. Now, how does homeschooling work with these different kinds of compositions? Now, in the studies that I've made, kung sino po yung mga kasama dun sa bahay, sila po yung kasama sa process actually in the development of the child. So we're talking about, say, I know that some of you, well, I've just talked to several moms na nag-i-inquire sa Victorious Homeschool and they ask me, what about socialization? It's always a question at marami na po tayong nabasa about it and it has been debunked pero nandiyan pa rin yung question na yan. Okay, so there are two kinds of socialization and I wanted to briefly discuss it with you. The first one is what you call the horizontal socialization. Itong horizontal socialization, it is when the child is with same age level kids. So ito yung nasa regular school. Say for example, grade 3, 9 years old. Lahat sila 9 years old na sa isang classroom. Yun yung yun yung horizontal socialization. So what can 9-year-olds learn from each other? They learn whatever a 9-year-old usually, would typically know. Ano yung mga tendencies nila, yung kanilang social, emotional well-beings. They would learn from each other kung ano yung social, emotional level din nila, and so on and so forth. Now, vertical socialization is when you have mixed groups and age levels in one particular social setup. And that happens in families. Kasi yung child, kasama si tita, si tito, older brother, older sister, and so on. Kapag medyo magkakahawig sila ng age, say for example, 8 to 10 years old sila, that's still horizontal socialization. So ano yung benefits ng, well, both actually, but vertical socialization. Ang benefits ng vertical socialization, natututo yung bata to handle different kinds of personalities, temperaments, and of course, different levels of maturity, which would result to the child actually being more mature than others. In fact, according to studies, several of them, hindi ko alam kung nilagay ko sa aking resources, hindi ko yata nalagay na dito sa aking presentation na ito. Usually, I put my resources at the end. The from my readings, yung mga homeschoolers, actually even in America, they are more sociable than those in regular schools. So hindi dapat talaga siya danger. Plus, I keep on telling parents na we don't have to live separately from others. In fact, that's why we have communities. Now, praying that the pandemic would really be more managed, since nag-face-to-face na ba na yung maraming mga schools din, we can already arrange homeschool get-togethers. Okay, so in fact, we have one sa September 9, yung mga Victorious Homeschool families, nagpa-plan sila na Teacher Lay would like to teach basic rescue, like how to handle emergencies, and how to facilitate CPR. Nakakatuwa. So gusto nila, kasi kailangan yon live, kasi they're going to demonstrate how it is done. So yung mga ganitong klaseng opportunities are really very present among homeschoolers. I used to teach theater in live classes kasi sila ni Raya, from my previous provider. Kasama namin yan sa mga classes, and we also had writing classes, public speaking classes, ng siya, special siya, hindi siya yung typical na classroom type. So it's actually more engaging and more enjoyable for the kids. So yun yung iba't ibang pwede natin gawin. So socialization is not an issue. So yung homeschooling sa Pilipinas, yan, iba-iba talaga siya. Okay, may question din. Kasi baka kami nagtanong, can I homeschool if I'm working? Yes, you can. Yun nga, babalik ako dun sa minention ko kanina. You can homeschool, but you have to be intentional about it. Wala kasi siyang shortcut eh. You cannot say you want to homeschool and then not do anything. Homeschooling does not mean that you just let the child do whatever she wants. Homeschooling also does not give you the license to be lazy and not intentional. Ang intention mo kung bakit ka nag-homeschool ay para mas makapag-carve ka ng relationship with your child, to the point that ikaw yung magiging main influencer. So pag ikaw yung main influencer, mas magkakaroon ka ng traction to teach your child the good things that you want your child to learn. So, teacher, paano pag hindi naman ako magaling, hindi naman ako mabait, paano yan? Kaya nga tayo nagsisimula sa'yo. Whenever we have orientations, I always start with the 7 habits of highly effective parents. Kasi ang homeschooling po, hindi po tayo magfo-focus sa bata agad. Tayo po muna. Admittedly, I've changed so much in the past 15 years, and more than 10 years of that homeschooling my children. There were so many things that I've changed. I've since apologized to my children for doing the wrong things and making them feel so bad. And at the same time, I've learned so much, and I've also shared with them. And I've seen how it can really work and how they can really thrive. So, yun lang po talaga. Hindi po tayo kailangan maging perfect. Okay, so you can homeschool, but you have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to shift your mind, and you have to be willing to carve nga the time. If you're a happy learner, your child will also be a happy learner. Do you have to be studying all the time? Not necessarily. You can be enjoying stuff all the time and learning at the same time. In fact, even when we're watching Korean dramas, we're learning a lot. Why? Nagbabasa yung anak ko nagbabasa ng subtitles. At the same time, pag pinili mo yung Korean drama na merong slices of life and moral stories, mas may added benefits pa. Aside from the fact na nagiging familiar siya sa isa pang language. Okay, I'm not making that as an excuse for you to binge on, K-drama watching. But the thing is, if you are intentional about it, so many things that you do, even just for fun, can be components of learning. Again, you have to be willing to build a relationship with your child. Hindi po siya burden, hindi po siya disturbo sa trabaho natin. Hindi po siya hindi importante dahil bata lang yan so hindi ko siya masyado papansinin or okay lang yan tsaka ako na siya kakausapin ng matino. You have to build a relationship with your child. Kahit na po batang-bata yan at pakiramdam mo baby pa, isa pong buong tao yan. So you have to build a relationship with him or her for you to become the main influencer. And of course, you have to be willing to facilitate the learning. And you also have to be willing to let go of the guilt kapag hindi mo natuturuan or feeling mo lang kasi, feeling mo hindi enough yung tinuturo mo or baka left behind yung anak ko. Naku, baka kulang yung, hindi namin natapos yung lessons and all that. I'm going to tell you a secret. I've been a classroom teacher for several years when I graduated from college. Hindi po talaga namin natatapos ang mga textbooks. Hindi rin po namin natatapos lahat mo ng mga lessons. Hindi po talaga, promise. Okay, and so, if you're able to accept all of these imperfections of yourself and of your child, yung lahat, you have to really accept and love your child for the way he or she is. Ganun din sa'yo, then it can work. To be mention ko yung, is it easy? Ang sagot dyan talaga kasi is yes and no. Homeschooling is easy. Yes. Why? Because you're in charge. But it's not also easy. Bakit? Kasi you're also in charge. It is easy because you are in charge of your child's learning. But it is not easy because you are in charge and responsible of your child's learning. Pareho. But it can be easy if you have accepted the shift, if you have embraced it, like I said, warts and all, and you have understood how children learn and embrace the freedom, of supporting unique interests and inclinations. Pag na-recognize mo yung anak mo ay isang unique individual, meron siyang sariling quirkiness, meron siyang sariling gusto, parang ikaw din, meron ka ring sariling gusto. Pag na-recognize mo yon tapos you let your child be at isusupport mo kung sino talaga at ano siya, then, it's actually easier. Much, much easier. Now, bakit siya nagiging mahirap? Kasi meron ka nito. Meron kang minsan, may mga snapshot child syndrome ka kung nakinig kayo ng mga webinars ko dati. May mga expectations ka eh. Tulad ko noon nung nag-start kami ni Teacher Amber. Teacher Amber is my child. Nung start kami nung early grade school siya, parang, grade 3 ka na dapat, alam mo na yan. Grade 4 ka na, alam mo na yan. Sa araw-araw kami nag-aaway. Kasi may expectations ako na dapat alam na niya. Hindi pa pala siya ready, hindi pa niya alam. Pero nagagalit ka kasi ikaw mismo actually na-frustrate. So, you take it out on your child. It was a no-no and I've since apologized to her for that. So, yung expectations na yan, wala dapat tayo masyadong sinusundan na expectations kasi iba-iba po yung mga anak natin. Hindi sila talaga sabay-sabay. At lalong-lalo na kapag kinukumpara mo sila sa iba. Comparisons. Comparing them is actually poison. Not just for you, but also for your child. It makes your child feel so bad. And it makes your child feel not confident and not happy about himself or herself. And the homeschooling can be difficult also when you give into the overwhelm. Ano yung overwhelm na yan? Kasi ang dami-dami mong naririnig. Ang dami-daming sinasuggest. Ang dami-daming binibenta na curriculum. Ang dami-daming binibenta na books. Nakaka-overwhelm. Tapos nagkwento si Mommy 1 ng ganito, ang galing-galing. Nagkwento si Daddy 2 ng ganito, ganyan-ganyan. Nakaka-insecure. Bakit sila parang ang galing-galing ng homeschooling nila? Bakit ako hindi? At papasok yung guilt. Okay, so, will it be easy really? No. Even for me, it was a journey. My advocacy is to shorten that learning curve kasi napakaganda po talaga yung modality ng homeschooling. Kung mapapaiksi namin yung learning curve ninyo at magiging mas maiksi yung adjustment period, that, I would have done my job. Hindi po talaga siya madali kasi hindi po natin siya na-accept at hindi po natin siya na-embrace. Okay, so if you know how to handle all of these, yung expectations mo, you manage it, stop comparing and don't be competitive. You have a unique child, kumpleto siya at magaling siya at wonderful siya by herself or by himself. Don't give in to the overwhelm. Focus. Ito lang piliin mo. Hindi mo kailangan tapusin lahat. Hindi mo kailangan tanggapin lahat. Pwedeng may mag-advise sa'yo. Pakinggan mo lang. Pero hindi mo kailangan gamitin lahat. Okay? The insecurity also, you are enough. God ordained you to become the parent of this child. Then you are enough. You don't have to have have all of these abilities na iba dun na hindi sa personality mo. Okay? You don't have to be a good speaker. Kapag hindi ka pa magaling na speaker, it can be learned. Kung gusto mo siyang aralin, hindi mo kailangan maging magaling sa math. Kaagad, pwede rin siya aralin. Kapag step 1 lang yan, 1, 2, 3. So don't give in to the overwhelm, the insecurity, and of course the guilt. Kasi yun ang unang kalaban natin eh. I am inadequate, I'm not enough as a teacher for my child. I'm telling you right now, you are enough. You are the best teacher for your child. Ayan. So punta na tayo din sa legal basis. So the revised homeschooling program policy. Punta tayo muna dun sa bago na gano'n ng DO. Okay, so these are the different articles which were the bases of homeschooling. So in our constitution, it was recognized that the parents have the natural and primary right in rearing their children to develop their moral character, and of course shall receive the support of the government. Okay, so basically that's saying that we are the authorities of our children's education. In this article, in the same constitution, the state shall protect and promote the right of all citizens to quality education at all levels. It encourages self-learning, independent, and out-of-school study programs, particularly those that respond to community needs. Ayan. It's self-explanatory. I can share with you these slides, by the way. So in policy guidelines, so K-12 Basic Education Program, Order 021, Series 2019, nandun yung term na flexible learning options. Okay, these are alternative delivery modes, which are modalities that do not strictly follow the typical setup. Typical means regular, of a regular classroom instruction, but follow the formal K-12 curriculum in content. Pero iba-iba yung style. So actually, mas hawig-hawig nito yung homeschooling. And during the pandemic, in 2020, all schools were asked to create the learning continuity plan. And in the learning continuity plan, which I made for several schools, doon naka-state kung papaano gagawin yung alternative delivery modes of education. So nandun kasama doon yung homeschooling, which of course we were all locked down. So nandun lahat talaga sa bahay, pero nagkaroon dapat ng ano ba yung plan. So kaya lumabas na yung mga online modalities, online distance learning and all that. And one of them is homeschooling. So I want to differentiate homeschooling muna, no? Before we go into the DepEd order. Kasi pag sinabi nga natin, di ba sinabi ko na misconception yung okay kapag nasa bahay ka, doon ka nag-aaral, then that's homeschooling. Not exactly. Kasi pag ODL, online distance learning, at saka say for example the modular, meron pa ring requirement that you follow a set pace according to a teacher's instruction with required submissions. Okay, so I'm not saying that these modalities are bad. Of course not. I'm a product of the public school. I was traditionally schooled, by the way, and I turned out fine. I think. Yeah, I'm fine. But I also realized that there is another way of delivering this education. Meron pang ibang way to educate our children. Now, yung ODL tsaka yung modular, hindi po siya homeschooling kasi meron ka talaga susundan. But, if say for example, in homeschooling, say merong online classes dyan, tapos merong modules dyan, may textbooks dyan, may learning events dyan, and then you can access all of those, or you have the freedom to use whichever you feel would be effective for your child for this particular topic. You have that kind of flexible freedom. You can go deeper in a topic. You can skip it if it's already a familiar or something that that your child has already mastered. Hindi mo kailangang sundan. Or pag meron biglang interest ang anak mo na related to a topic, and then say for example you're doing say science, tapos biglang, Mommy, I really want to learn about the most dangerous animals on earth. Kahit related lang. Okay, kapag yun ang gusto niya aralin, you have the liberty to follow through, to follow the path of your child's, interest dun sa topic na yon. That's when you have homeschooling flexibility and the homeschooling freedom. Kaya siya magkaiba. At hindi rin kayo required to take the same standardized test at the same time. Yun po yung maganda po sa homeschooling, kasi po pwede pong hindi pa po handa yung anak nyo. For example, let's say you're learning English, kasi English yung major ko. Like, you cannot expect kapag grade 3 dapat marunong na siya magsulat ng paragraph, for example. Yung bata hindi pa masyadong enrich yung kanyang vocabulary at hindi pa masyadong strengthened yung kanyang sentence writing or sentence concepts. Bakit ka magbibigay ka agad ng paragraph writing? Balik ka muna. You go back to the foundational lessons. The same principle applies to mathematics. Okay, let's say for example, you cannot teach formal division to divide. No, you cannot teach formal division if the child has not mastered addition, subtraction, and multiplication, kasi integrated yung tatlong operations na to bago ka magkaroon ng knowledge in division. No, so you get that, you have to meet where your child is. That's what yun ang ibig sabihin, meeting your child where she is. Pwede rin naman kahit na alam niya yung knowledge, hindi pa siya emotionally ready. Okay, so like for example, I have a very unique child, my youngest. Sabi, nandun na kami sa division. Kahit alam kong kaya na niya, hindi pa siya ready, sabi, kasi hindi na siya nag-enjoy. Sabi niya, okay, so I understand it, but I don't want to do it yet. Okay, sige, wag muna. Kasi kapag hindi, pag ipipilit mo, magkakaroon pa ng problem kasi magkakaroon siya ng negative association dun sa learning. So that's the difference of homeschooling. You can actually control that. Okay, so now let's go to DepEd's issued DO, itong DepEd order number 001 series 2022. So the revised homeschooling program or DepEd order was issued last January 21, 2022 and ensures that learners have choices in attaining quality education. Okay, so sabi ni Education Secretary Leonor Briones, this order will help our learners with more regular parental support and supervision, as it highlights that parents or guardians are responsible for monitoring their children's work in progress and are the primary agents of the teacher learning process. Okay, pati yung kanyang design and execution. Okay, and then school heads are instructed to assign a homeschool coordinator, a managing director or provider who will be in charge of enrolling learners, monitoring their progress, and providing support to parents or guardians during the implementation. And that's when I come in. Okay, so my background as educator and homeschooling parent and homeschool consultant came in handy because of this DepEd order. So I became a consultant of two DepEd recognized schools and ESC certified schools as well. Okay, so what are the general requirements to homeschool? Okay, so the first one is that the implementing school must be DepEd recognized. Okay, so what is the difference between a DepEd recognized school and a DepEd accredited school? So we made a post of this. A DepEd accredited school may have a DepEd ID but has to renew its permit to operate on a yearly basis. So the risk there is that kapag hindi siya na-renew, magiging floating at hindi ma-enroll yung mga bata. That's why DepEd mandates that only DepEd recognized schools should offer the ADM, one of which is homeschooling. Okay, number 2 requirement, parents fill out the homeschooling form. So nandun po kapag pag-registered po kayo sa Victorious Homeschool, nandun po yung tatlong forms, which is the letter of intent, the letter of commitment, at yung pong data privacy na, why you are homeschooling. Yung tatlo lang po, very simple. And then number 3, the requirement is for the parents to undergo orientation or the training for parent teachers. And this is like some sort of like a training for you to understand what homeschooling is, etc., etc. And then on July 25, 2022, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of how we do victorious homeschooling, for example. At yung mga ibang mga providers and schools then, if they're offering homeschooling, they have to provide the training and to equip and provide the parent teachers tools on how to go about homeschooling. And of course, we have the homeschooling program manual. In our case, we have the Victorious Homeschool Info Book and the availability of resources. So in this case, we're going to upload ebook resources, study ebooks that are that are aligned with the K-12 curriculum, as well as the US core curriculum, by the way, kasi hawig-hawig naman silang dalawa. Okay, so these are the general requirements to homeschooling. I know that you may have questions later, so we just get into the finish line of this presentation para pwede nating entertain yung mga questions ninyo. Okay, so I want to also discuss this very briefly, reframing flexible learning in an open curriculum. Ano ba ibig sabihin nga ng curriculum ba? I always mention this kasi curriculum sounds intimidating to some parents. Okay, curriculum is simply the list of subjects and knowledge that or courses that a child is supposed to learn in a particular period. Okay, now we have the K-12 curriculum, which is a mandate for public schools and regulated for private schools. Now the K-12 curriculum is the only, technically speaking, curriculum in the Philippines. Ayan, how do we make it into some sort of like an open curriculum? Mandate pala yan lang naman pala talaga. Yan yung mga subjects, okay? Nandyan yung mga learning competencies, nandun sa MELC. Kapag wala na yung pandemic or hindi na siya, dapat decongested, ibabalik daw nila sa regular K-12 curriculum, yung marami. Okay. Now, the difference here is when you have an open curriculum, it is contextualized. Okay, so I mentioned it earlier. Say, for example, kunyari, nakalagay dun sa learning guide of topics natin, say, nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Kunyari, nandun yung mga topics na yon. You can contextualize it depending on the level and readiness of your child. Now, kapag kapag first time niya mag-aaral ng academic English, then you go into all of those details. But, pagdating ng, kunyari, grade 1 man lang, kahit grade 1 siya or grade 2 siya, tapos kabisado na niya, you have the liberty to skip it and then expand it or make it more appropriate for her age level. There is no one rule that would confine you to teaching a particular subject dahil nakalagay lang dun sa libro or nakalagay dun sa booklet or nakalagay kung sa module or kung saan man. Pag pakiramdam nyo hindi siya eksakto dun sa kailangan matutunan ng anak nyo according to your child's level, you have the liberty to skip it or expand it or look for similar resources that you feel would be more engaging to your child. That's contextualization. Another aspect of it is, you can learn it from a textbook. You can also learn it from a YouTube channel, for example. You can learn it from a video. You can learn it from a PowerPoint presentation, or you can just make cuento about it. You can use a story to explain a concept. Yan, puro contextualized talaga siya. In short, it's personalized. Can you add subjects to whatever existing subjects that is, that are required by DepEd? Yes. Madami po. Yung may nagdadagdag po ng Bible curriculum. Marami po tayong students din na nagdadagdag ng, like for example, coding and digital literacy na medyo kulang po yung mga naandun depende sa levels, and so on and so forth. Other details of the curriculum we're going to discuss in our July 25 orientation for those of you who are joining us. Okay, for the others, you can discuss it with your provider or your schools. Ayan. So, from Nikki Truesdell. Okay, so one very prolific writer and blogger of homeschooling, and who's they call it second generation ano siya homeschooler sa US kasi parents niya homeschool daw siya homeschool tapos yung mga anak niya homeschool hanggang sa mga may asawa na sila. And she gave this statement which is not really her original statement. She said that grade levels are artificial constructs. Again, one requirement for you to be able to homeschool is really you have to be willing to learn, you have to build a relationship, you have to facilitate learning. Yan, nabanggit ko na yan. No? Pero pag sinabi mo artificial constructs kasi siya dahil your children are really not, what do you call this, on level all the time. Katulad ng binabanggit ko kanina, kapag grade 3 po yung anak ninyo, minsan po yung Filipino niya grade 1 pa lang, pero yung math niya grade 5 na, baka yung English niya grade 7 na. You know, they are never really on level. Like I said, you have to meet your children where they are. And this applies to the different subjects that they have to learn, you know, based kasi DepEd recognized tayo, so we have to follow. But, you know, you can make sure that you are teaching according to what they are comfortable with. You know, we're talking about academics here, no? Where they're comfortable with, whatever they are ready for, and they would most enjoy. I think, you know, I want to emphasize that last one. Kasi kayo, di ba kapag if you're watching something enjoyable, di ba mas nagkakaroon ka ng retention of, you know, the memory and the whatever knowledge. Tapos kapag merong something that resonates with you, na nakikip mo, even with some Bible verses, natatanda mo talaga yung nag-speak talaga sa'yo. The same principle applies to learning. Isa yung mga yung grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, these are actually artificial constructs. In fact, if you go back to the history of homeschooling, I did extensive research on it, by the way. Before the industrialization age, everybody was homeschooling. So yung mga specialists, may mga apprentices sila. Kapag hindi yun yung interest ng anak, pupunta sila sa isang tao na expert dun sa field na yun, dun siya magiging apprentice. Kapag farmer siya, nagre-raise ka ng pwedeng mga susunod na mga farmers, or kapag ayaw niya maging farmer, gusto niya paling maging doktor, ipapadala siya kung sino yung doktor at mag-aaral siya doon. So technically, that's homeschooling. Now, mass education. Regular schooling came about in the age of industrialization. Bakit? Nangailangan po ng napakadami pong factory workers. Nakailangan ito yung set of skills and knowledge na meron sila. At kailangan nila ng maramihan. So, gumawa ng isang center for training, and that became the school, and so on and so forth. So that's basically a very, very brief history of it. You can read about it, you can Google it, and you know that what I'm saying is true. So itong homeschooling movement, nag-start siya ng mga 70s, mga 80s, gained traction in the 90s. It reached the Philippines, you know, more prominently in the 2000s. So in the research that I helped do, may mga respondents ako, the parents who have been homeschooling for 18 years. I've interviewed parents who have been homeschooling for 8 years, 10 years, pinakamatanda yung 18 years. Sa Philippines. Of course, sa US, mas matanda na. Pero sa atin, so it's been around for a long time. Ngayon lang talaga siya nagkaroon ng regulation sa DepEd. Okay, so what are your roles here in the Philippines? Okay, Philippine setting tayo. Ayan, so as a parent, you are the role model. So, if you watch my homeschooling education webinar series, dun sa 0 to 8 years old, yung formative years ng anak mo, that's when you teach values. Whether you teach explicitly or your child observes you. Your child should know what is good and bad, should differentiate what is right and wrong, true or false, etc. Also habits. Coping mechanism. How do you cope with problems? Na-observe po ng anak ninyo yun, so yun po yung natututunan niya, yan po yung curriculum niya. And of course, humility in relationships. So when emotions become awry and not managed, meron din tayong humility to accept our wrongs, and we can apologize. Yun, natututunan din po ng anak natin yan. So, Ano yung role mo as a parent-teacher? To be a parent. And one of them is to be a role model. Ano pa? Another role is for you to be the facilitator of learning. So again, minention ko yung you have to take into consideration the readiness of your child, yung interest at saka uniqueness niya. Iba-iba talaga sila, iba-iba yung quirkiness. Take into consideration also the learning environment. Anong klaseng environment meron yung house mo, yung home mo? And of course, you have to provide opportunities. So, pwede kayo namamasyal, pwede kang mag-outsource ng learning apps, pwede rin pong may tutor, nasa inyo po yon. So, nagfa-facilitate po kayo yung learning when you provide all of these learning experiences to your child. And of course, the community. That's what we have been trying to build in, for example, in our niche, no? Sa Victorious Homeschools, we're trying to build a community where we can have this spirit of sharing and of co-educating our children. At the same time, dito sa community na to, gusto namin magpakakaroon kami ng community for parents with special needs children din. Kasi now I'm very, very happy that we have people who are willing to help. So we're going to be part of this community and we can just offer advising and services for free up to a certain extent. And so ito yung isang role mo, facilitator of learning. So, parent ka talaga, parenting. And then, facilitator of learning. And lastly, okay, in terms of DepEd, you are also a provider of evaluation. You are a provider of grades. Okay, so there are different homeschool ways of grading and providing feedback. Again, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this for those of you who are joining us on July 25. So, habang nagkukwentuhan kayo sa dinner, meron na actually nangyayaring learning dyan at may grading and providing feedback. So, like for example, if you ask your child to read a story or to read an article, pwede nyo pagkwentuhan lang yon habang kumakain kayo. And there's, learning is happening there in a very, very natural and very effective way, if I may add. Okay, pag binigyan nyo yung anak niyo habang tumatanda sila ng chores and errands and even practical projects that are very useful in the home, there is learning there and there is also accountability there. Of course, you can ask your children if they're older to have, say for example, video or similar outputs. Pwede silang gumawa ng mga presentations nila to share with you and even to share with others in which others can also learn from these presentations. Yun yung mga po pwedeng gawin. And that will be part of the grading. Okay, of course, you also have the traditional ways of paper-based or online-based quizzes and exams. So, isa lang siyang component. Pero kapag homeschooling ka po, ang dami-dami mong pwedeng activities on a daily basis in your home that can be translated into academic learning. Math pa lang dumating yung pizza, meron kang preschooler dyan. Okay, so we have 8 slices of pizza and then there are 4 of us in the house. If we're going to divide it equally, how many slices will each one have? It's as simple as that. Or kapag whole yung pizza, okay, so if we're going to cut it into 2, that's already 1/2 and so on and so forth. Ang dami. Ang dami po pwede. Counting, addition. Hindi mo kailangan bumili ng mga educational materials. Meron kayong kutsara at tinidor sa bahay. Bilangin nyo po yun. And so on and so forth. Ayan po. So, materials also for reading. Kayo ng carton of milk or carton of cereals, basahin ninyo yun. So many opportunities to learn. Lahat yan naturally occurring. Okay. So, yun. Yun yung tatlo pala, sorry. So, yung inyong pong main roles as a parent-teacher. 1, you be the parent. 2, you're a facilitator of learning. And 3, you're a provider of evaluation or grades. Kasi required tayo yun. Kailangan natin maggawa ng grades for our children. With the help of course, teachers. Ayan. So, if we're going to rethink education in the real world, briefly lang to kasi nakikita ko naman na when you think back, you ask yourself, how did you learn? Ano ba yung mga natutunan nyo? Ano yung mga moments of learning ninyo when you were preschooler? Kapag matatanda nyo ba? Ako mahirap na kasi matanda na ako eh. When you were a grade schooler, when you were a high schooler, even in college, or kapag nag-seminar ka, nag-training ka dyan, think back. Think, how did you learn? Ano yung mga effective ways na natuto ka talaga? So if you really are very honest about it, you learned so much when it naturally occurred and when you actually enjoyed yourself. Pag ganun kayo, ganun din yung mga anak natin. Okay, so now, ano yan eh, past tense yan eh. How did you learn? So I want to ask, present tense. How do you learn? I'm asking you, the parent, how do you learn? What motivates you? What energizes you? What gives you joy? Anong inyo po yun sa sarili ninyo? Kasi yan din po yung mga sagot po dyan. Dito po yung mga sagot para mas matuto na mas effective yung mga anak natin. How do your child learn? Mas visual ba siya? Natutuwa siya pag may videos? Quiet lang ba siya? Sinusulat niya? Nakikinig ba siya? Ano yung incentive niya? Ano yung interesado siya? Yun yung nagmo-motivate sa kanya. Hindi naman nagwo-work talaga yung mga reward and punishment eh. Kung saan siya nag-enjoy, doon talaga po siya natututo. At mas yun po yung natututunan niya. And so, the interest and the inclinations actually are melded together. In my webinar series, I talked about the leadership education. So to 0 to 8 years old, you have to teach, the child has to learn and distinguish what is right from wrong, what is good and bad, what is true or false. Values. 0 to 8 years. Paano natin siya tuturuan ng magandang ugali? Kasi importante or mas importante yung kesa 1, 2, 3 tsaka ABC. Kasi kapag meron po siyang magandang ugali, magandang attitude, susunod na si 1, 2, 3 tsaka si ABC. 8 to 12 years, dito ka nagkakaroon ng kaunting structure. That's the reason why in Victoria's Homeschool, we give free e-study booklets with accompanying quizzes and quarterly exams starting grade school. Kasi dito ka na naglalagay in place ng structure for their scholarly pursuits. Academics na ito pinag-uusapan po natin na yung ugali, 0 to 8 years, dire-diretso po yan hanggang 12 years. Kaya nga po, we want to expound growing goodness and greatness at home. Goodness po, yun po yung character. Kagandahan ng loob. Pagiging makatotohanan. Honesty. Respect. Love. Consideration. Ito po, 0 to 8 years old, dire-diretso po yan hanggang pagtanda po nila. Sa 8 to 12 years old lang, i-introduce ka na ng concept ng structure for scholarly pursuits. Kasi basta hindi naman dahil, when you say scholarly pursuits, academic pursuits. And then 12 years and beyond, pag tama yung kanilang development, then po nakikita na nila yung kanilang interests and inclinations at dyan po sila magpipili ng kanilang mga expertise, what they really want to become. Now, don't fret kapag meron kayong mga high schoolers na hindi ko alam kung ano yung gusto ko ganyan-ganyan. Right now kasi even before naman, no? But right now, a child can have several specializations. Nung mga panahon ko, hindi ko na sinabi panahon nyo kasi mas matanda ko. Nung panahon ko, ito lang yan kami ng asawa ko, pinag-uusapan namin yan Kung hindi ka doktor, engineer, ano pa ba? Accountant, abogado, ayan, yung mga yan. Yan lang yung mga alam nila na successful ka kapag yan yung mga yan. Or nurse, kunyari, yan. So kapag ganyan ka, kasi mag-abroad. Like so. Yung panahon po ngayon, napaka-varied na. In fact, the challenge here is we are trying to raise children of a tomorrow. And in this tomorrow, we don't really know the kinds of jobs that will exist for them. Paano natin sila tuturuan na maging future strong? Mabalik tayo dun, the goodness and the greatness, and we make sure that they have their foundational skills kasi ito yung mga tools nila. Ito yung mga tools if they're that can equip them to really master whatever they want to master so that they can be productive citizens and good people of the world. So yun na binanggit ko kanina sa Victorious community. Yun yung responsibility natin we are change makers of the next generation. And so I believe that homeschooling is the pathway for that kasi in homeschooling, that's the opportunity for us to build this relationship. So, actually sasabihin natin na magsisimula sa bata, hindi, magsisimula po sa atin. That's why our parenting is the key. If we are going to make sure, if we want to make sure that our children grow up well, we have to be well ourselves. Tayo mismo. Okay, so I want to share this kasi nakita ko sa Facebook. And when I search up, kasi walang nakalagay dun sa Facebook, nakita ko, tapos wala, source unknown. Hinanap ko siya. And I found out that it's from uh, Dorothy Law Nolte. It was published in 1972, 1975. Okay, and it's called Children Learn What They Live. And I want you to read with me. So if children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. If children live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. If children live with encouragement, they learn confidence. If children live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children live with fairness, they learn justice. If children live with security, they learn to have faith. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. And if children live with acceptance and friendship, they learn to find love in the world. So, my dear parents, we cannot always control the greater environment of our children, and we shouldn't pretend that we can. But we can gain most traction if we homeschool. So yun po yung message ko for this event. And of course, we're going to welcome your questions. And I need to see the chat. Ayan. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have questions po, pwede po tayo magtanong. Ngayon ko lang po makikita yung inyo pong mga messages. Yes, tama po yun na I see Teacher Mami Lou, yes. If you enjoy it, your children will enjoy it as well. Tama po. Yes, Teacher Larcy, tama. You use toothpicks. Very nice. Okay. Tama po. Okay, so if you have questions, you can message me here or you can ask to be unmuted po.
Let me get power for them to unmute.
Okay, so we're going to open the your access to unmute yourselves po if you wish to ask questions. And yes, we're more than willing to share this presentation slides for you because the idea is for you to learn more about homeschooling and for many to be more open to it and to have a glimpse of what it actually is. And these kinds of learning should be free and accessible. So ayan po, ayan. So for those of you who registered, kapag meron po kaming ibibigay din po na parang incentive pero magmimili. Hindi ko alam sinong magdodraw lots. Mamimigay po kami ng mga discount. Maliit lang naman po na mga discount vouchers for those who haven't registered with us yet. So these are Victorious Homeschool vouchers amounting to 200, 300, 500 po. Natatanggap na lang po ng mga parents kapag kasi pumipikit na lang kami. Hindi namin ginagawa sa actual event dahil po nagiging magulo na nalilimutan namin. Basta tinitignan po namin yung pong registration form and then we award some discount vouchers po. Okay, thank you po, Teacher Ray. Thank you po, Ma'am Tyler. Yes, tama po. Kahit po yung mga parents po na nakikipagkwentuhan po sa akin, yung tapos na sila makinig ng mga webinars, naiintindihan na nila. Pero pag may nakita sila uli na comment o kwento ng ibang mommies, na-insecure sila uli. And so that's why we have to be continuously encouraged and to be reminded. Kahit po kami po.
Teacher
Ayan po.
Helen.
Yes po.
Hi, hi. Ako po si Lisa
Hello po, Mami
Rosoto.
Liz. Hello po.
Hi. We're actually parang decided na kami to enroll with Victorious after checking our options.
Opo.
I just want to share that I appreciate yung shinare mo kanina about grade levels being an artificial construct. Kasi, ayun, parang na-mention mo rin earlier, bago ako mag, mag-unmute, na I get, mothers get to be insecure after a while kahit na parang ang dami nang nabasa na books about
That's
homeschooling,
true.
curriculums like yung sa Charlotte Mason or
Opo.
yung mga Waldorf approach na
Opo.
or whatever they think it would fit their family.
Yes po.
So pero anong tatanong ko? Dami ko tuloy nasabi.
Pero
Ano,
thank you. Yeah, thank you for those. But yeah, ano po
oo,
yung tanong po natin?
ano, ano yun? Kasi our eldest, he's 9.
Yes.
He's turning 9.
Papa.
How do you handle how does Victorious handle kunwari yung grade level niya is kunwari with regards to reading, hindi pa siya
Reader.
parang sa level ng DepEd for grade
Yes.
3.
Okay,
How
so
do we
how do
how
we
do
go?
we go with oo, parang
Opo.
ibabalik namin siya dun sa level ng grade 2 or grade
Yes
1?
po, actually po. So doon po sa inyo pong Google Classroom, meron po kaming binigay doon na mga tinatawag naming o ibibigay pa lang, hindi ko alam kung na-upload na namin, di pa pala. Extensive reading books. Okay, so extensive reading books are called such because they are usually lower than the typical assigned reading level ng isang bata. Okay po. So, hindi po talaga pare-pareho yung reading readiness po ng mga bata. In fact, in my other webinar, I mentioned that children read from between 3 to 11 years old. And children reading at a later stage, with comprehension, I mean, this does not take away whatever they can achieve later on. Kasi pagdating nila ng mga around, say for example, 12 to 15 years old, wala na magtatanungan dyan eh. Kailan ka natutong magbasa? Wala na pong ganun. Yun lang talaga, iba-iba po yung reading readiness po ng mga bata. Unless meron po tayong developmental flag. Okay, so iba po yun. So yung kung either meron pong ASD po yung anak natin or meron pong dyslexia or some other developmental delay, iba po yun. Pero kapag yung natural lang na nakaka-recognize naman ng letters plus hindi pa masyado bumibilis magbasa, kahit 9 years old po yan, normal lang po yun. Some of my students before, especially in the kasi I really taught so many levels, meron pong nagiging bihasa sa pagbabasa ng 11 to 12 years old pa. Pero pagdating nila ng, parang ang bilis nila, after a few months, yung level nila dun sa mga ibang bata, magkapareho na, or minsan mas mataas pa sila. So hindi iba-iba po sila talaga ng ano po. Now, kapag meron pong developmental delay po yung anak po ninyo, ako po yung point to person there kasi we're going to have the good and great brains community po. Di pa nabanggit ko po sa inyo po. Hindi lang po actually siya for children with special needs. Kahit po wala pong technically diagnosis po yung anak ninyo, pwede po mag-join doon dahil kunyari meron po kayong anak na 9 years old pero feeling nyo i-welcome ninyo, say for example ang isang material for 6 to 7 year old, you can request it from me or you can request from an assigned staff. Kunyari mga books po kaya na pwede pong basahin na hindi naman technically on grade level pero enjoyable pa rin at saka marami pa ring learning component. Pwede po yun. Yun po yung way namin. We can give you other materials that are lower or even higher than your child's grade level or age level.
That sounds
Okay
good.
po. Okay po. So,
May assessment din ba pagka kunwari mag-enroll na kami?
Wala
to
po
see.
kaming binibigay po na assessment kasi po yung susundan po namin kung ano po yung enrollment history kasi nakalagay po naman usually sa card na uh, the child is eligible to move up to this level or the child is grade 1 ready or grade 2 ready, something like that. Yun po yung i-honor po natin. Wala po
Okay.
kaming online assessment.
Ah, thank you, teacher.
You're welcome po. I want to answer si Mami Lily. Okay, so although it's a direct message, do you require portfolio review? Technically, it's not some sort of like a review, but we request for submissions. One of the first vault-in classes would be a review of or a repeat of our how to create your child's portfolio website. So nagtuturo po si Teacher Amber ng paano gumawa ng simple website. Doon po magiging submission bin ng kunyari pictures po ng anak nyo habang nagsusulat or meron kayong learning activity or outputs po ng anak niyo na willing kayo to share doon po sa ating create na portfolio website. So the e-portfolio can also be shared in social media accounts or pages of Victorious Homeschool. Yun lang po yung portfolio review natin. But for us to, kasi when you say review, we really go through and then assess the output of your children. I don't think, we need to do that. The mere fact that you are making a report of your child's activities or sharing, actually, I don't want the word report. You're sharing your children's activities and learning experiences where, in which we can all learn from and be inspired with. Okay po yun. Yun lang po yung ating e-portfolio review. Okay. Ano pa po yung tanong? Paano po ang hatian ng quarter? I'm trying to prepare po kasi mga activities and nag-base po kami sa learning guide ninyo for first-time homeschooling. Okay po. So I did tell you about artificial constructs of grade levels. Ganun din po yung artificial divisions of topics. So we gave you the learning guide of topics as guides. Okay, so that's actually it's being revised right now pero halos pareho din lang naman and mas ini-improve lang. Yung learning guides po, based yan po sa several books na release ng DepEd in terms of their content. So kung, like for example, kapag kabisado nyo na yung topic, pwede nyo po siyang baguhin ng konti. You can customize it accordingly. Pwede pong, kunyari, pag nakita nyo yung first quarter topics, ay alam niya na to, mas maiksi namin to aralin. Pwede kayong mag-bleed into the second quarter. Or pag feeling niyo masyadong mahaba yung first quarter topics, pwede nyo i-cut yon at ilagay yung iba sa second quarter. We don't have very strict hatian or division of those topics. It's really up to you. You have the whole year to actually plan those topics and you can also customize them accordingly. You can go deeper. You can maybe skip some of them if it's already very familiar. Okay, if it's too difficult, again, you can go down. That's the beauty of flexibility po. Ayan po. So you can make your own plan. Okay. So and don't worry about being a first timer. Kahit na po yung mga veteran homeschoolers, ganun din po yung pakiramdam every time. Okay, so how do I start my year? It's okay. So, we can probably ask some of our parent leaders to share their own experience and how they make their own scheduling. Mamaya po. Okay, may I share po? Yes, Teacher Larcy, please unmute yourself and then feel free to share.
Hi, Teacher Helen.
Hello
Good
po.
evening.
Good evening.
I'm glad I made it.
Yes.
Nakatapos na. Oo. And, yun, again, grabe. Super, na naman kami na empower naman sa inyong mga, talagang very encouraging. Yan. Ako, I've been with Victorious since last year and every time po na yan narinig ko si Teacher Helen, lagi akong may bagong baon. Yan. And gusto ko lang po kasi i-share because I've homeschooled my two boys before. Ako yata yung sinasabi, one of the mga first po yata before mga homeschooler. But my boys now are already teenagers. My eldest is now in college, LaSalle. Yun. So, I just wanted to share po kasi I think most parents would also have this. Ito yung pinakaunang-unang tanong nila na parang okay ba na mag-homeschool? hindi ba siya magkakaroon ng parang discrepancy pag if ever, 'di ba, we go back to regular school. So let me encourage po all of the parents here, maka medyo may ano pa kayo. I homeschooled my boys, my eldest especially because he was bullied in an all boys school. So I really don't have a choice. And hindi naman po sa pag-ano, pero he's really gifted kasi at the age of like 2 years old, 3 years old, he was able to read, as in read na po talaga. So no more
Oh.
decoding. So and so syempre boys are really physical. So if they, especially if they don't have anything to do, talagang ang resort nila is to move. So if you are in a traditional school, ang ano doon is of course you will be sanctioned. So and then because of that, yung mga classmates niya so bullied him also. So I really have to pull him out of that school. And then that's when I I I I knew someone na nag-homeschool siya. So ako, by the way, I'm also an educator. I'm a preschool teacher. I graduated from UP Diliman with family life child development. So talagang progressive ako, Teacher Helen.
Yes, I know.
And I'm super, super happy kasi everything
Yes.
that I've learned from college, you're putting it into here.
Yes,
Talagang
yes.
grabe.
So
Talagang
Teacher Larcy,
grabe.
by the way, is part of our Good and Great Brains community. She will be
Yes po, yun.
proponent
So,
of that.
again, encouragement lang po. So I had to homeschool my eldest from grade 4 until grade 6. And then every year, every time mag-start yung school year, I will ask him talaga na, would you like to still to go continue homeschooling? Kasi if not naman, we can go back to, regular school. And then, siguro grades, kasi teenagers na, iba na yung interest. And then, but actually, ang choice na po talaga is to still continue homeschooling. Etong ako lang po, medyo ako, graduated from a science school. Pinag-try ko siya, Teacher Helen, na mag-entrance exam. And you know what? Pumasa po siya sa lahat ng science high schools.
Very good.
And yes, so for the whole high school days niya, wala po akong binayaran dahil scholar siya ng Manila Science High School. And then, senior high school, kasi sila yung nasaktuhan ng K-12, may scholarship po kami from Manila, from Taytana. So, wala rin po akong binayaran. And now in Lasal, medyo nag-a-apply kami kasi medyo nagiging, syempre, because of the pandemic and also medyo strict sila on giving scholarship. But
Yes.
grabe kasi hindi naman po, syempre, I know, bragging rights of a parent. Pero
Yes.
Dean's Lister po ang aking anak. So first year college po siya. Kakatapos lang nilang mag-finals last week or this week. So natanggap namin yung ng kanyang advisor. So Dean's Lister po siya. So yun, mommies, talaga siya. Tama yung sinabi ni Teacher Helen. If your homeschooling is more of intentional, kasi 'di ba sabi nga natin, wala namang ibang makakakilala sa ating mga anak kundi tayo eh. How they learn, how they respond, ano yung tantrums nila, ano yung ayaw nila, ano yung kinaiinisan. So, tayo lang po yung actually yun talaga yung pinaka-edge natin when it comes to of course the teachers are, the teachers in regular school, syempre they studied about this, 'di ba? So they were also equipped, they were empowered. Pero yun nga more of character formation. Tama yung sinabi ni Teacher Helen na when you homeschool talaga, kailangan ang unang-una mong is kilalanin talaga yung anak mo and also yourself as parents. Alam mo yon, yung the academics, sabi ko nga, the academics, hindi ako talaga nagturo sa anak ko Talagang siya, although blessed ako because he's a reader, he likes to read. So yun, at saka another addition is pag nag-homeschool po kayo, manunurture niyo yung gift ng anak niyo. Yan. Kasi my son, although he went to a science school, hindi siya masyadong on math and science. But he is a reader. Talagang daig pa niya kung nabasa niya lahat ng Greek mythology ng elementary school pa lang siya. So yun, na-nurture ko po yun. And then, true enough, ngayon po, he's taking literature in Lasal. So parang inaano ko kasi, di ba, thinking back, kung hindi ko siya na-develop, kung hindi namin in-embrace yung gifting niya, baka ngayon nagsa-struggle kami. As parents kasi, I know mga parents ganyan na nagpapalit ng course, di ba? minsan nga graduate ka na, hindi mo pa alam yung purpose mo, what are you supposed to do, di ba? So,
Yeah.
so talagang ano po tayo, marami tayong mga mas dapat i-plus points kumbaga sa homeschooling. Kasi talagang, yun nga sabi ni Teacher Helen, talagang everything is here. Yun, as you're the parent, you're the teacher, you're also the friend, you're sometimes the enemy of your child.
Yes.
So, yun na, andun na lahat. So kumbaga parang, and then, don't be scared pagka yung time na dumating na, you have to let them go into the real world. Kasi ako po talaga, I'm also a single parent, so medyo talagang takot ako. So, pero, yun nga, sabi ko, kilala ko yung anak ko Parang, di ba, yun ang talagang foundation natin Pag kilala ng anak, and also themselves, they will really get to know who they are. Kumbaga, sabi nga sa Bible, di ba, Teacher Helen, sa Romans 12, di ba, na do not conform to the pattern of this world. Lalo ngayon, ang daming nabubombard sila ng social media. So, tayo po, ako talaga, even yung mga tinuturuan ko po, mga mini-mentor kong parents, I always tell them, yung academics po, maraming time para dyan. Ang kailangan natin i-ano sa kanila is how they will grow up to their calling, di ba? If they are called to teach, then empower natin sila to teach. If they are called to serve in the as medical frontliners, i-empower natin. Kasi ako po, tama yung sinabi ni Teacher Helen tayo siguro yung mga product nung before, di ba? Hindi naman natin sabihin na hindi maganda, pero somehow, mas nangigibabaw yung takot.
Yes.
Kasi more authoritative yung mga parents, teachers, school institution before, nung time natin. Ngayon nga, yun nga sabi ko nga, napaka-blessed ng mga bata because they have like this. And even if they're not homeschooled anymore, pag andun yung foundation, kahit saan mo sila ilagay,
they can
yun ang dadali nila So, yun lang po. I just really want to yun. I hope I encourage the parents and yun nga, sabi ni Teacher Helen din, if you feel like medyo nag-aalangan ka, we're here. We're all here. This is a village. This is a whole community ready to and talagang meron tayong moments na gano'n. Minsan tatanungin yung sarili mo. Talagang
tama ba yung ginagawa ko?
Opo, correct. Diba? Talagang, balik na tayo ulit ng regular school anak. Ang
Yes,
hirap mag-grade, ang hirap gano'n. So, siguro, you can talk to co-parent, you can talk to Teacher Helen, to fellow homeschooler, or minsan nga sa anak mo na lang Minsan nagugulat ako, parang nakikita mo, yun sasabi ni Teacher Helen na spontaneous learning, di ba? Na out of nowhere, okay, sige, tuloy natin to anak. Parang meron akong nakita sa'yo na hindi ko nakikita before. Sige, push natin yan.
That's
yun,
true.
so, yun, sobrang talaga, I hope you would really, see the beauty. Sabi nga, maraming mga hardship, sabi nga ni Teacher Helen na yes, easy, difficult, but it's all worth it.
Yes.
Yun, in the long run. And yun naman po yung natin yun, to transform and, bring up this, next, natin, leaders, lalo ngayon, di ba po?
Yes.
So, alam natin. So, baga may hope tayo Ako, I'm really feeling hopeful about yung next, kasi ang daming homeschoolers, nakakatuwa. Kasi namin po,
sabi nga yung next president natin, homeschooler.
Yes.
Next, in a few years.
Tapos, tsaka yun, be open.
Yes.
Be open to anything, to criticisms, to learning. Yung alam mo na dati mong akala mong tama, ay mali pala, iba na pala ngayon.
Allow yourself to learn
lang po. Yun. So, yeah. Thank you, Teacher Helen.
Yeah, thank you, Teacher Lars. Sa susunod, ikaw yung mag-host ng ganitong learning event, ha? I really appreciate it. Kasi that's coming from the background of family life and child development, right? May mga nakausap ako from FLCD. They actually interviewed me for homeschooling as well. So now let's talk about that kasi they're doing research now about homeschooling. And I really want to help, students like that. Nagma-master sila. And I think, the papers, the research work would really help. Kasi sila ini-interview nila yung mga practitioners talaga Ayan. Again, thank you, Teacher Larcy. Teacher Larcy.
Thank you also, Teacher Helen.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of our consultants. Ayan, si Mami Jea. Okay, so yeah, may suggestion si Mami Jea about how to schedule your school year. Ayan, minsan pwede natin tignan talaga yung mga textbooks na ginagamit natin. Tama po. Yun na hahati naman talaga siya sa quarterly periods at mga units. Now, like I did say, na we don't require specific textbooks, but it doesn't mean that you cannot use one. Okay, you can buy textbooks from any shop. Actually sa Victorious Homeschool po, we provide some learning materials, particularly sa grade 1 to 6 kasi yun yung start ng scholarly pursuit. Kaya kami nagpo-produce talaga ng study e-booklets or study e-books. But if you feel that you can use other textbooks, no problem. We make these resources and learning materials available for you and you can choose to use them or not. Pati yung mga vault-ins, kapag meron kayong mga feeling nyo hindi nyo kailangan attend na class or meron kayong family activity, hindi kayo makaka-attend, no worries about that. Kasi all of them are in place just so you can use them to support your own homeschooling. So lahat po yan, yung ating academic fold-ins, our regular fold-ins, meron tayong Encanto Ed, tsaka yung mga social emotional events, pati yung mga clubs natin, they are all available for you, but never required. Yan po. Ano pa yun? Thank you po. Ano po hindi marunong magtagalog yung bata? Mahirap magturo ng Filipino advice. Okay. So, I know the name, Mr. Jost. Okay, so I don't know if it's a mommy or a daddy, no? So meron kaming provision for anak ko din po, guilty. Okay, yung lalo po yung bunso hindi po talaga marunong mag-Filipino. So what we do is introduce Filipino as a second language. Wala naman pong rule. Okay, being good in English does not make you any less of a Filipino. Yun lang yung mas maganda lang po, of course, matutunan natin yung Filipino dahil ito po yung wika natin. Pero, kapag talaga po ang dominant language po ng anak ninyo ay English, pwede nyo pong i-delegate ang Filipino bilang isang second language. Pag second language po siya, hindi po natin kailangan magpakahirap at na sundan po yung learning competencies based on DepEd. Susubukan lang po natin. So, what we suggest to parents, for example, we have foreigners, by the way, coming in. I mean, not foreigners, but Filipinos who grew up abroad and then would use the DepEd curriculum. We guide them to YouTube videos, translated in Filipino, yung mga fairy tales. Okay, so there are also books from Lampara and Adarna books na merong English version tsaka Filipino version. Okay, so you don't have to teach the academic Filipino in a very, very strict manner. So make them more comfortable with the language first. Ang tawag doon ay treating it as a second language. Okay, hindi niyo ina-assume na matututunan niya na mabilisan kasi first language niya is English. Okay, so paano yung pag-grade ninyo? Kung ano po yung natapos po at na-cover po ninyo na topics, may natutunan po siya ng mga talasalitaan or vocabulary, yung na-cover po ninyo na lessons lang po ang i-grade po ninyo. Paano mag-join ng club? I-announce po natin yan sa July 25 po. Okay, tapos nag-iipon pa po kami kasi right now, ang existing po ay a book club, music club, digital arts club, tama ba? Okay, and I forgot the other one. Basta meron pong basic na 4 clubs, magdadagdag po kami kasi we encourage na sana isa lang yung club dahil baka magkaroon ng conflict ng schedule. So the club meetings can be 1 or 2 times a month. Usually nasa Wednesdays and Thursdays kasi yung Mondays and Fridays po natin ay nasa regular vote-ins at saka academic vote-ins. What are your programs for SPED? Hindi ko pa po nasagot. I have a nephew, a citizen student. Tama po. Okay, so program. It's actually a misconception. I have a child who is ASD level 1, by the way, yung bunso ko. No? Si Teacher Amber yung panganay, tapos meron po siyang little sister na may ASD. Now, in my pursuit of studying different learning disorders and developmental delays, nagkaroon po ako ng mga certifications, kaya po natutunan ko po yan, tapos pwede po talaga akong magbigay na advice. But the thing is, bottom line, there is no such thing as one program for everyone. So pag tinatanong ako ng learning program for SPED, the only advice that I can give is, the program that you as the parent would design for your child, because you know your child best. Now, there will be interventions, okay? So, ang tulong na maibibigay namin, one is inclusive po yung Victorious Homeschool. So, we accept all children, and all children pay the same tuition. Hindi po kami, pag nakita namin na may special learning disability, nagbibigay po ng mga dagdag na kung ano, hindi po. In fact, tulad ng nabanggit ko po kanina, kami nila Teacher Larcy, ang my child's place behavioral therapy center, along with other SPED tutors. And si Teacher Gazelle, by the way, is a registered nutritionist and dietitian. So pwede siyang magbigay ng advice sa mga gluten-free diet, casein-free diet, kasi po yun po yung specialization niya. Magkakaroon po tayo ng community for differently abled children. And we will call it Good and Great Brains Community. So dun po, kapag meron pong, we will send you an invite kapag meron po kayong nephew, for example, who might need that. Kahit po siguro hindi taga Victorious Homeschool, tatanggapin po namin dyan kasi we can stand to benefit, from each other's experiences and from each other's knowledge and expertise maybe, whatever we have learned. Tulad nung yung nakita ko po, yung inaral ko po yung gluten-free, casein-free diet na yan. I saw how it really helped my child. At napakamahal po noong program. Okay, so yung mga natutunan ko po doon, I would, gladly share for free, kasi makikita ninyo na kapag meron po kayong a child with autism, for example, magli-lift yung fog, na ma-manage yung emotions, at magiging mas stable siya kasi pala merong allergy, may nagre-react differently yung mga ibang bata sa ganitong mga klase ng food. So that's something, that's just one component. There are many others. So, ibibigay ko po na advice. So, Mami Jennifer, we will provide support in terms of the DepEd enrollment. And then we would give that, that kind of advising. And the materials, the old people with families with differently abled children can request, from our staff, other level materials that would be more appropriate according to the readiness of the child. Kunyari, kahit na 13 years old siya, kapag ang pwedeng material sa kanya ay mga 6 to 7 years old, it's okay. We can give you ebook copies of those extensive reading materials that might be useful for the children na merong mga special conditions. Okay po. Yeah, thank you po, Mami Jennifer. Ayan po, kapag in-enroll po natin yung bata, tapos, with that artificial grade level construct, pipilitin natin na dapat matapos niya to, kasi kapag hindi niya natapos, akala natin hindi dapat siya pumasa. Level up natin, and then susunod lang yung material. Okay? Ibig sabihin ng leveling up, natapos niya yung 1 year na may inaaral siya, hindi lang pareho ng iba. That's it. Okay, so para sa mga hindi marunong mag-Tagalog. Okay, so ito pa. For grade 1 to 3, sino may mga grade 1 to 3 dyan? Kasi may requirement kayo na mother tongue. Okay, so kapag English po yung dominant language nyo, technically, mother tongue simply means the dominant language. Bakit po? What is the rationale of the mother tongue? Kasi kapag if you are using the mother tongue or the dominant language in studying lessons and concepts, mas effective. Kunyari, yung taga Pangasinan, bihasa siya sa Pangasinan. So kapag ituturo mo yung mathematics sa kanya na merong na Pangasinan na instruction, mas maiintindihan niya. Di po ba? So ganin din po yung kapag kapag Bisaya yung kanyang first language, then you can teach science concepts na merong halong Bisaya, and that would be more effective. So that's the essence of the mother tongue. I think, when it was created, I read through it, but kapag dalawa yung pwede mong gawin dyan. So the mother tongue can be the English grades kasi po, yun po yung kanyang dominant language. That's the mother tongue or the Filipino for that matter. Now, kapag meron po siyang, kunyari gusto niyong gawing mother, kung ano man yung binigay ni DepEd na material, it can also be that. But the thing is, we don't force the children to learn something that they are not ready for. So kung sakali po gagamitin po ninyo yung curriculum, titignan po natin kung makakasabay at ma-absorb at may impart po talaga sa bata. Huwag po natin pilitin kasi pag pinilit natin, kunyari nung pinilit po yung isang panganay, katabi ko ngayon, kakainin na matuto ng Filipino, nagkakaroon siya ng negative association of the language, which is, which is also very negative. So hayaan natin siya na naturally makuha niya pag magkukwento tayo, Tagalog English or Filipino English, and then the one that I advised earlier, meron kang English version ng kwento dito, meron kang Filipino version dito, or the listening to the YouTube materials, then approach it as a second language. Pero yung mother tongue, pwede pong i-duplicate yung grade sa English kapag dominant language mo ay English, or Filipino kapag dominant language mo ay Filipino. So, you don't have to worry about the mother tongue subject anymore. Kasi otherwise, you would be wasting time and even doing harm pag pinipilit po natin. Yan. Okay, it's okay po, Mami May. Maraming salamat po. Nagkakaroon po ba ng culture shock coming from a homeschool environment then to a bigger school? Hindi naman po. Sa mga na-observe ko, naturally nagta-transition lang sila. Ganun din malamang sasabihin ni Teacher Larcy. Hindi po talaga. Kasi pag sinabi mong homeschool, hindi naman talaga sila hermit. Ngayon, kapag titignan nyo ito, kasi pandemic, lahat po ng bata na lockdown. So kung ano po yung disadvantage ng bata na kung ano man yung condition ng bata na magpupunta sa big school at yung nag-regular school na na-lock tapos mapupunta sa regular school na face-to-face, same. Itong pong dahil sa pandemic. But even pre-pandemic, I've seen it happen. Wala po na major adjustment simply because hindi naman talaga nakabahay lang yung homeschooler. Lumalabas po yan, maya marami pa rin po nakakasalamuhang bata. Especially pre-pandemic times. Yes, thank you, Teacher Larcy. Sabi sa'yo, Teacher Larcy, you have to host a learning event like this kasi we can also learn from you, especially with your background. Yes. Tama. Nakaka-stress po talaga sa umpisa. Math diagnostic assessment po sa Victoria. Okay, so Mami Liza, yung pong math diagnostic test, hindi po talaga siya test kasi pag sinabi mong test, it's evaluation, assessment, at merong grading component, at merong judgment, and all of those things associated with test. Yung diagnostic test po natin, gentle lang siya just to make sure na, meron pala akong hindi alam na aspect ng math dito sa grade level na to. Then, the teacher would just explain, would give you the answer and then would explain why the answer is such. So we are using the testing concept, pagkakaroon ng exams, as a learning component. Ngayon po kapag naka-enroll po kayo sa amin or kapag nag-register po kayo, pwede po namin i-share sa inyo yung mga diagnostic test po na yun with their accompanying answer keys. It's free for our enrolled families po. Magkakaroon din po uli ng high school sessions po this coming Saturday pala. So, Teacher Emily will give diagnostic tests, especially those usually given sa grade 9 to 12, usually given in standardized college entrance exams. Yan. How to be part po ng mentoring for parents. Actually, all of us are part of the, yun lang, in the Victorious community, lahat po, yung mga parent leaders, naturally po, nangyayari po yung paggawa po ng mga activities. Like for example, one of us is an expert in, say, rescue operations, first aid kit, And CPR tulad po ni Teacher Lay, yan, siya po nag-volunteer siya to teach parent leaders and even interested parent teachers living in the area. Mag-announce pa lang po kami kasi hindi po namin alam kung saan po yung venue at sabi po ng instructor, 20 to 25 lang po yung po pwedeng turuan like that. Other parts of mentoring would be like, for example, if you have different ways of teaching math na nakita nyo na effective, you can just message us and approach us. Teacher, pwede po akong sumali sa Volt-In or magbigay ng ganitong tips sa ating next Volt-In class. Although we have teachers handling the Volt-In classes, I mostly handle the regular Volt-Ins before because it was, the concept was really just rolling. Pero ngayon po, we welcome teachers and parent teachers with specific expertise to join us. May konting premyo din po yun. Yes, Mommy Ray, teacher. Actually, Teacher Ray. You can share po. Tama ba? Madami na ba ako din? Sino pa ba?
Good evening po.
Good evening, Teacher Ray.
Regarding po dun sa how to teach Filipino.
Ayan, Teacher Ray is also pala our tutor.
I think po yung mga bata po ngayon kahit na kausapin natin sila in Filipino language, mostly yung mga dominant language na talaga nila is English because of first, the one day watching and the one day play, di ba? I mean, watching and playing is a natural, parang yung part na yun ng mga kids ngayon and they are learning naman sa sa paglalaro at sa panunood. Tapos yun nga, yung dominant language nila is English dahil English yung pinapanood nila. Sabi po ni Teacher Len kanina, may mga books po like Adarna Lampara and Datahanan, meron po silang mga bilingual books, means mayroong English and may Filipino translation. So siguro po, kapag nagkwento po kayo, maybe pwede nyo po siyang i-integrate na you teach what is the noun in that particular phrase or particular sentence. Tapos, syempre po, i-relay nyo na noun is, the Filipino is pangalan. Then, pwede nyo rin po siguro kung sa inyo naman yung book, pwede nyo pong encircle kung ano yung noun. Tapos, i-box nyo kung ano yung pangalan. Mga ganun po. So, you're learning naturally by storytelling and you're learning how to introduce the grammar and yung bahagi ng pananalita pa sa Filipino. Yun
Very
po.
good. Thank you, Teacher Ray. Actually, we have that program to be launched this school year 22-23. Yung pong tinatawag po namin Grammarilla, which is a combination of grammar and balarila. Tinitignan lang po in-introduce po yung pagkakahawig po ng academic English grammar and academic Filipino grammar para po magkaroon ng mas komportableng approach at concepts yung mga bata sa parehong wika. Kasi po like for example, nahirapan po kami noon for example kay Teacher Amber. Pinag-take po namin yan ng test po sa UPIS. Confident yung bata, 0 po siya dahil hindi po niya maintindihan yung mga Filipino questions. But anyway po, pati po sa pagdating po sa UPCAT, mga ganyan, o sa mga iba't iba pong mga standardized exams, so which we cannot really avoid eventually pagkatapos nating mag-homeschool up to grade 12, kailangan din po magkaroon sila ng grasp na mga yan, kahit po sila ay mga Inglesero at Inglesera. So, for example, in the case of Teacher Amber, she had to sit down and learn all of these Filipino words. And one of the things that she did when she tried to learn Filipino by herself, by the way, is translation method lang. Tapos yung mga iba-ibang instructions sa mga tests as simple as salungguhitan, bilugan, pagtapat-tapatin, yun yung mga instructive words na kailangan alam nila. Now with Grammarilla, tulad ng binanggit ni Teacher Ray, ilalatag yung dalawang wika ng magkasabay. So ito like for example, noun, pangalan, iba't ibang klase ng nouns, iba-ibang klase ng pangalan, mga pandiwa, verbs, etc. Yung exact terms and then how they are translated. Yung pagkakahawig lang. Yung po yung Grammarilla. Kasi kapag ilalagay mo na yung mga mas malalalim pa, baka hindi po masyadong makayanan. But what we intend to do is translate that into the writing component eventually. So yung writing component yan is like, pangungusap, sentence, talata, paragraph, essay, sanaysay. So magbibigay tayo alam mo ang maganda sa mga bata kasi pag bibigyan mo sila ng maraming halimbawa or examples, they learn. That's how we actually learn patterns. And so yun po yung susubukan po natin gawin na hanggang dun sa level na yun. But Gramarilla will take place this school year 22-23. Ayan po. My mommy Brenda, hugs. We should build this world with inclusivity because that's the cornerstone. Cornerstone po yan ng humanity at saka love. Yan po talaga. Ang gaganda at ang gawa po ng mga anak natin. Kaya dapat ma-embrace nating lahat at ma-embrace sila ng lahat. Now, this is one thing here I want to share. No, hindi medyo off topic, no? Kasi I've been talking to so many specialists ka. One of them would be Teacher Larcy. Parati natin sinasabi na ang mga, for example, ASD, that's my child kasi. ASD, they are lacking in emotional regulation and social cognition. Yan yung hindi nila matansya yung mga iba't ibang social atmosphere. And we always, we always promote this idea na they have to go through therapy, which is okay. Some interventions, and all that. But I think, what I really want to happen is that we educate the rest of us how to include them. Kasi parang ginagawa natin, pinipilit natin yung mga differently abled and differently wired kids to conform to the neurotypical crowd, when in fact what we should be doing is we should be teaching the neurotypical to include them. Dapat nga sila yung neurotypical nga, sila yung normal, so dapat mas may capacity sila to include and be educated. So that's something that I actually started in 2020. Kaya ang dami po natin, kung natatandaan niyo po, yung mga nandito na kasama po natin simula ng 2020, nag-start tayo ng mga iba-ibang mga storytelling sessions with the lessons of inclusivity and some activity sheets related to it. And we're going to have, since we're going to have more bolt-ins, gagawa tayo din po ng gano'n. Para po yung mga anak natin magkaroon po ng awareness. Yung for them to be able to adjust to different kinds of brains and different kinds of people. Akala natin na nagbe-benefit yung mga specially gifted children. No. Both. We are all benefiting from each other. Kahit na iba, kasi yung pag-embrace ng diversity, if we're able to really embrace authentically diversity, that's the mark of intelligence and the mark of progress. So, yun yung gusto ko sana po, na mas magkaroon tayo ng ganong klaseng community, be more inclusive, be more welcoming. Kasi di ba yung nangyayari, di ba yung mean girls boys dati noong panahon, actually, biktima din ako ng mean girls. Introvert po ako, mahihain po ako, joke. Ayan. So, di ba usually may grupo na yan. Kunyari, mag-enter ka, tapos merong group na yan. Kunyari, group of 5. Tapos, na-OOP ka, out of place ka. Kahit yung matatandaan niyo, you probably had moments like this, at some points of, your lives. Ang dapat ituro kasi, kapag kahit may group na kayo, you have to create space for people who are coming in, who are new, and who may be different. So yun yung gusto ko ituro, kasi lahat ng culture ng mga schools, parating may ganon. Mean girls, popular group, nerd group, may ganon parati na klase na, although we cannot really, change it. So, but the thing is, if we're able to teach ganitong klaseng values, inclusivity, values, empathy, creating spaces for others, I think, we would have a more beautiful world. It's something that I really, really, really believe in anyway. And that new community where we're addressing learning delays, yes. And that new community, hindi po kami magbibigay siguro assessment. We will talk about it with Teacher Larcy kasi po, although we have, my cousin is the owner of My Child's Place Behavioral Therapy Center, actually. And we have been working together by yung mga students nila, ini-endorse nila sa amin, yung mga students ng Victorious Homeschool looking for DepEd and occupational therapists, ini-endorse ko rin sa kanila. Ganun lang ka-normal, walang business arrangement or anything. We just really help each other. But the thing is, dito, nagkaroon kami na idea na may mga bagay na mga mga common lang na po pwede nating i-share na hindi alam, especially for parents who have children na newly diagnosed, yung wala pa dun sila sa level ng acceptance. So pwede namin tulungan yon. Pati yung kapag magbibigay kami ng assessment, pwede po siguro i-endorse namin dun po sa mga license. Maybe we can do that. Ayun, yung young chef pala yung kasi nag-head noon si teacher Mami Lou dati nung may time siya, ngayon wala na siya time. Okay, yan. But thank you din po.
Okay lang, teacher.
Teacher Mami Lou, nandiyan ka, mag-share ka naman konti.
Oo ba? Nakataas na nga yung hand ko eh.
So, yan, share ka naman kasi ikaw yung may journey na napakaganda.
Yes, yes. Hello po sa lahat, mommies, daddies. Welcome po ulit sa Victorious Homeschool. Ang sakalam lang. Diba? Ano po, dun po sa Filipino, isa kami sa mga naunang families na nag-enroll talaga nung pandemic. At pangatlong taon na namin. Yay! Pangatlong taon na namin.
Mommy, are you going crazy?
Yeah. I can hear Maggie.
Inggrisera yung mga anak ko. Tama po yun. Inadopt namin yung kung ano yung kaya ng mga anak namin sa pagkakaintindi ng Tagalog. Yung lampara ito, yan, namin siya, bukod sa ginagawa namin siyang, kahit yung bata kasi sila nagre-read ako ng stories bago matulog. So, yan, English, Tagalog, ganyan. Tsaka may, not yet, but you understand it. Okay.
Just like what the doctor said.
Yes. Yes. Okay, can I talk first? Yes, no cell phones. Can I talk first here, baby? All right. Ang ginagawa ko nga para maintindihan nila little by little, yung Tagalog, talagang ginagamit ko pag nagsasalita ako. Pero yun, minsan mas mabilis sila mag-English, kailangan ko din sa pero kasi nag-aaral na rin yung bunso ko, ito ang ginamit namin. Ito ang Filipino nila sa ngayon. Itong libro namin. Maybe other parents, hindi naman to pwedeng Tagalog na libro, pero wait anak. Pero ito po this works for us sa ngayon.
Ano title ng book, TM Lou?
Ito yung mga bata pa tayo, teacher, yung ang abakada, ang unahing hakbang sa pagbasa.
Yes.
Nabili ko lang to dun sa hindi national book, dito sa bookstore sa loob ng Airbase. Yung
Sa Clark?
Nandito kasi kami.
Oh, punta kami dyan.
Sige, may bulaluhan dito, masarap. Mas magaling pa yung bunso ko magtagalog kaysa sa ate kasi ngayon naging mas open ako na nag-aral ng librong to sa kanila.
Yes.
Tsaka may mga maliliit kasing mga pictures dito sa librong to. Tama po yun. Kung ano po yung kakayanan ng anak nyo, wag nyo silang ikahon sa, eto yung grade mo kasi hindi. Kasi yung anak ko ngayon grade 3 kasi naaral namin pangunahin. Napaka-primary pa siya. And as long as they enjoy themselves, learning comes talaga naturally. Narinig nyo kanina, nanay, tinatawag ako ng bunso ko, nanay. Kasi kasi kailangan ko siyang subuan ng gulay.
Okay. Nanay.
Nanay. Kasi kinukuha niya attention ko kaya nanay. Pero pag mami, ganyan. What I'm pointing at, mommies and daddies, is sa family namin and hopefully sa family nyo rin, joining with this homeschool lifestyle.
Yes, it's a lifestyle.
Is one of the best things that would happen to your family. It happened, nagre-revolutionize ang buhay namin dahil sa Victorious. At naging mas natural yung pagtuturo at pagiging mas magaling or mas mabuting nanay dahil kinailangan mong mag-homeschool ng maayos. Kailangan maging ano ka, mabuting model. Hindi ko
Yes.
sinabing best.
Oh,
Mabuti ka
yes,
lang.
tama mo.
Oh,
Tama.
ang palagi mo lang sabihin na the secret recipe there is always love. Tapos maintindihan nila na, oo, love. Love is the answer. Kasi whatever you ask them to do, the root there is, the root word or the root motive there is love. So, yun. At saka, yun, sorry talaga, Teacher Helen, kasi alam mo na, nagtatrabaho si
I know,
nanay.
I know. It's
Gustuhin
okay.
ko mang magluto palagi para sa inyo.
I know. And but we
Oo,
appreciate that
darating din
1
ang
year.
panahon,
Yes,
darating ang
yes,
panahon,
yes.
magtitrio kami ulit ng ano,
Yes.
ng
But we
mag-cook ulit
appreciate that
sila.
1 year. Ang dami po namin natutunan kay TM Lou dahil sa kanyang
Oo.
pagmamanage ng aming Young Cooks Club and Young Chefs Club. Thank you so
Young Chefs and
much.
Cooks Club. Salamat po ulit.
Thank you, TM Lou.
Bye-bye po.
Bye-bye. Kasi si Teacher Lar, okay lang, si Teacher Larcy merong secondary, yung how your child adjusted to a regular group after homeschooling. Yeah. Cooperative learning pwede po. Si Mami Jessa, yeah. Again, thank you so much din po. Yes po, at natutuwa din po ako sa sharing parati po ninyo ng sa mga activities po ninyo. You know, hindi kay alam mo ang mga homeschoolers pa mahilig lang niya magbasa, hindi man nagko-comment, but we really appreciate the sharing. We're learning a lot, especially yung pag-join niyo ng pagsusupport niyo ng artistic pursuits at creative pursuits ng mga bata. Maraming salamat po. Ayun. So may Teacher Larcy tama. Okay, comfortable gamitin. What I did was ask myself, what is your target skill? Si Teacher Larcy, pwede ka mag-share, tama ba? Tinitingnan ko lang muna yung mga ibang nagtatanong. Yung anak ko German, yeah, I saw this one before. It's okay, from 0 to 4 years old, actually, from the linguist perspective, no? Yung bata actually can learn as many as 4 languages at the same time. Basta naturally occurring. So it's no big deal, really. 4 na languages is natural for them. Your child's brains are actually geniuses. Ganun po talaga. Kaya nga kapag ano pa inaaral ni Gracie ngayon? Aral po siya ng Chinese mag-isa. Ayan po. So yun babalikan kasi si Teacher Larcia. So si Teacher Ray Duolingo, yeah, it's a very good. Meron pang isa, Teacher Ray, Lingo Dear. Also good. Yes, Teacher Larcy, dun sa ating storytelling. Okay. Is it possible na recorded yung grammar rela? Yes, opo, one of our objectives now for this coming school year is to record all of our learning sessions. Lahat po ng learning events po natin ay recorded na. Kasi po, mas na-secure na po namin yung aming LMS, yung aming Google Workspace. So, pwede na po, nandun na po lahat sa inyo pong Google Classroom. Ayan po. Permission. Oh, yes, of course po. Thank you po for joining us, Mami Daisy.
Yung cookie, dapat staple na natin yun sa bahay.
Yes po, Teacher Ray. Tapos ano? Yes, very good. 12 pesos. Okay.
Kailangan talaga.
Okay. Thank you po, Mami Jennifer.
Maganda talaga. Pero baka kasi hindi
Tama
ka
po. Ayan, so Teacher Larcy, I'm giving the floor to you.
Ha? Committed ka, kaya mo.
Ayan, thank you, Teacher Helen.
Ano nga nangyari sa anak mo?
Share ko lang po yung sa Filipino kasi may son yan. Lumakit sa natuto kay Dora. So, pati yung diction. So, talagang hirap na hirap po kami in Filipino even before mag-homeschool kami noon. So, what I did was, yun, sabi ko nga, kung saan komportable yung bata, so ganon. So let's say, for example, so it's a Filipino, kunyari, talagang Filipino subject nyo. So ako talaga po, sabi nga, but you have to be really intentional in teaching. So kailangan alam mo kung ano yung, saan siya komportable. So what I do talaga po is, since he loves books, he loves stories, so ako ng Adar na storybooks. So yun ang ginamit ko until grade 6. So imagine hanggang grade 6 nag-aadar na kami. Hindi po kami nag-textbook kasi mas marami siyang nasasabi, which is my goal, 'di ba? Yun naman ang goal natin, yung paano yung conversational. Kasi I think yung mga bata po ngayon, they can understand. It's just that they're having a hard time yung conversation part. So ako po, ang ginawa ko talaga sa anak ko is, okay, ito yung kwento natin. So, sino nga yung ano dito, yung bida? So, ang sabi nga natin, kung sino yung bida, ang tawag natin doon. So doon mo po ipapasok yung tauhan. Tapos, and then, yun, tama yung sinabi ni Teacher Helen na side by side. And that's what I'm also teaching right now sa aking mga homeschoolers. So, pagka may slides po akong pinapakita, meron ako talaga sa ilalim. Kumbaga para tayong nagki-K-drama, 'di ba? May may subtitle. So ganon. And I think it helps them, and minsan din po yun nga kasi papakiramdaman yung bata. Minsan naman kasi it helps, alam naman pala nila. So minsan medyo mahirap lang sa kanilang i-verbalize ganun. So ako, I usually ask them na sa story, kunwari, yung front, yung harap ng libro, tapos tatanungin natin sila, anong nakikita mo? So, Filipino kasi to, anong nakikita mo? Pag sinabi niya, may bahay. Anong klaseng bahay to? Ganito ba yung bahay natin? And then, from there, yung sa ano pa lang, cover na book, ang dami ng pag-uusapan. Ano nga yung napag-aralan natin na bahay? Ano ba to? Pandiwa ba to? Nagsasabi ng kilos? O pangalan to dahil ngalan ng ganon? So, tama, hindi siya dapat masyadong structure kasi ganun yung parang nagkakaroon sila ng aversion eh. So parang yun nga, it should come out naturally. Kumbaga parang ganito pala yun eh. So pagpangalan, noun. And then yun, I also made it point na kung ano yung tinuturo ko in terms of yung grammar lesson sa English. So sinasabay ko talaga sa Filipino para kahit kumbaga 2-in-1 kasi working parent din po ako. So parang kumbaga hitting two subjects or two lessons at parang ganun, one sitting. So it also helps. And then pagdating ko sa high school, ako ang naging problema ko sa anak ko even when he was in Manila Science. Medyo nahirapan kami yung sa pagsulat. So ako talaga, nung nag-homeschool kami, talagang I really give time na kasi kaya na nila mag-express. So ibang ibang facet of cognition naman yung how to translate it into writing. So kailangan meron din tayong time on that. Kasi yun, mapipinpoint natin yung mga grammar pati sa Filipino, yung pag-aayos ng pangungusap, 'di ba? Yung nauna yung sumuno or panag-uri, or minsan naman mas effective kasi siya na mas nauna yung panag-uri on Filipino. So ganon. So napag-uusapan nyo during homeschool na I think sobrang bless yung mga bata on that kasi sa regular school hindi naman ganun nabibigyan ng time eh. Parang okay, ito yung pangalan ito yung mga iba't ibang uri ng pangalan, ito yung ano niya, tama ba yan or hindi. So hindi na pa-process, more of process kasi I think that's also one beauty of homeschooling. Mas marami tayong time to process than to yung product itself yun. And another thing po, may nag-ask kayo yung sa grading system and sa assessment. Yun po, ako talaga ever since, kahit hindi pa ako nag-homeschool before because I was trained as a progressive teacher sa preschoolers, I always tell the parents, mommy, grade is not everything. Your grade, whether mataas yan or mababa, it will never define you. I mean, marami tayong kakilala, 'di ba? Mga successful people, 'di ba? Na talaga namang, I mean, they belong to parang mga product ng parang last section ganon. So actually, ayaw ko yung sa DepEd din kasi nagkakaroon ng yung grouping. Pero yun nga, I also tell the parents kahit mga naka-enroll po sa regular school na the grade only tells you hindi pa 1/4 eh. Parang it can only, it will really not parang assess or reflect yung talagang total performance. Nasa homeschooling, tayo bilang magulang, kitang-kita natin yun, di ba? So, hindi mo gagradean yung pinaka-output itself eh. Although may part, pero mas magiging concern tayo on ginawa niya ba to on his own? Di ba? May initiative ba? Excited ba siya? Konti lang ba yung motivation? Kailangan madaming motivation? Gumamit ba siya ng resources na available or naghanap siya? So, di ba, ang daming, mas marami tayong kumbaga, nagigauge. Na I think more than the grade itself. What is 75? Ano ibig sabihin ng 75? Ano ibig sabihin ng 99? Ano ibig sabihin ng 94.5? Or even ano ibig sabihin ng A or B or B plus, B minus. So ako until now I always tell my kids na of course we have to praise God, 'di ba? I'm thankful that you're really doing your best, and yun nga, if you get high grades or okay yung ganyan mo. But again, even if you don't, 'di ba? It doesn't matter because I know you're learning from it. It's just that hindi nakikita or hindi na-reflect siguro. Parang, and sana ganun yung maging mindset din ng mga, especially in the public schools, di ba? Yung mga teachers kasi. Although, syempre, they also have to follow yung educational system. So, sana ganun din yung pagiging parang part of our goal as homeschoolers, di ba? Yung ma-revolutionize din, hindi lang yung mga children but also yung who are the educators. Kasi minsan doon nagkakaroon ng discrepancy eh. Parang okay yung bata kasi ito yung niya, but pagka may nakausap na teacher or educator or somebody, so nagkakaroon ng medyo confusion. So yun, ako lang po I always and I would like to always reiterate to the parents na of course, di ba, and also being part of, kung anong class, which school you are, kung whether UP ka or Ateneo. Although, di ba, syempre, it's a plus. Pero ako, I always tell the parents na it still boils down to the character of the person, di ba? Kahit graduate yan or from elementary to college until masteral, Ateneo siya or UP or whatever, kung ang character naman niya, di ba, ang values niya ay, totally opposite of ganon. So, hindi siya di ba? It will not really make a mark or a difference to, the world and to kasi yun naman ang natin eh, yung ano ba yung part natin on the transformation. So, yun. Kaya, siguro din, para it will also help you in, pagka malapit na yung mga quarter, na nag-i-input na ng grade. So, di ba, be kind to yourself, be kind to your children, di ba, na hindi man nila nakuha or hindi man nila na-perfect yung score sa quiz or exercise, whatever, there is always, tomorrow is another day. And if not, tomorrow, the following days, parang ganon. And again, that's also would help us yung okay, medyo kulang pa pala kami on this part. So, balikan natin. Kasi yun na naman ang maganda sa homeschooling. You can always go back, di ba, until such a time na, may mastery na at talagang confident na sila in terms of not just yung content in academics, but especially nga sabi ni Teacher Helen, yung skill. Lalo sa math. Kaya tayo naiiwan ng Singapore eh. I really am, it's so, yung parang nakakalungkot kasi parang nagiging gauge sa mga schools ngayon na magaling yung bata kasi nakakapag-multiply siya, let's say, ng 3-digit by 2-digit. So, ang ibig sabihin, yung bata na nakakaintindi ng 1 digit multiplied by 1 digit ay hindi magaling. When in fact, yun ang base, yun ang foundation eh. So, it doesn't have to do with the, kung gaano kahaba yung kaya niyang i-operate or i-work on. So, ang doon is, manipulate niya. Alam niyang gawin.
Diba? Yung concept.
Basic. Yes, kasi nakakalungkot. Even if you look at the textbooks right now, Teacher Helen, sa math,
yes.
I mean, Philippine mga publishing,
yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Nakakatawa kasi one whole quarter, all you will teach your children is to subtract. Tapos ang dami niya kasi lesson 1, subtracting 1 digit by ganito. Yes. Tapos yung lesson 2 without regrouping. Tapos yung lesson without regrouping. So, when in fact, pwede mo naman siya ituro ng sabay.
Yes.
Diba? When would you need to regroup or to borrow? So, hindi mo na kailangan, i-separate one from the other. Masyadong, tapos yung number of zeros, diba? So, kunyari, yung bata ay nakaka-identify or even in, Teacher Helen, siya sa language. Diba, teacher, ang bata, minsan nakikipag-away ako sa mga parent ng preschooler, pagpasok, teacher, nung pagpasok niya magaling na mag-ABC yan. Bakit hanggang ngayon ABC pa rin?
Kasi,
Ah,
kasi
di
mali.
ba po,
Wow.
ABC, the singing of the alphabet or even the identification or even the telling us what letter it is, it's rote, di ba?
Yes.
Pero ang kailangan for them to really read is
Yes.
individual sounds. And then
Sounds.
finally, combination of sounds.
True.
So ganun siya, step by step. Kumbaga, tama ba, Teacher Helen?
Tama.
Walang shortcut,
Tama.
di ba?
Kaya yung pacing talaga, iba-iba pati yung pacing. So, dapat susundan mo yun.
Yes, unless super gifted na,
Yes.
di ba? Otherwise, you really have to, kaya nga tayo, kaya nga ang daming corrupt ngayon eh, kasi gusto lagi, I mean,
Instant eh.
tama, di ba? Kasi, again, character formation, values. Mag-shortcut ka when you really have to go, kasi you have to embrace yung beauty of, yung process itself na minsan mali, minsan even yung writing, Teacher Helen, ayan, sa language, nagrereklamo, 9 years old na, hindi pa raw alam yung how to write properly the B and the D. When in fact, it's just normal.
It's normal.
Sabi nga, teacher, until 11 years old, merong hindi nakakapagbasa. Ako po, teacher na ako Would you believe my youngest son, muntik ko na siyang ipa-therapy kasi at the age of 8, hindi pa siya nakakapag-decode. 8. Sako, syempre,
ako din po noon.
Di ba, teacher? Tapos ako, parang naano ko, kasi syempre, I'm a preschool teacher. Yung mga anak ng ibang magulang, nakakapagpabasa ako. Pero itong anak ko, hindi. Only to find out, Teacher Helen, na ano siya, kinesthetic siya. He learns best when moving. So when I was doing the, CBC, tumatalon kami. How did I teach him yung cat bat? Ayaw nang ganun. Sumasakit ang ulo niya, sumasakit ang ulo ko. But
Jolly phonics is okay.
Nag-jump kami. Gumawa ako ng isang malaking playground dito sa loob ng bahay. Okay. If you think this word has the sound of at, can you jump on that ganyan? Wala pa. Nako, ako na nagsawa, ako na nag-give up siya. Gusto pa.
You wouldn't have discovered that pag hindi ka talaga engaged sa anak mo.
Opo. And tama. And then, parang naano nga ako, so pag pinasok ko siya, tapos, I mean, either malilabel siya or, magkakaroon na.
Kapag pinasok mo yan sa regular school, tapos na-label, naku, napaka-harmful nun.
Yes. And again, yung tama, Teacher Helen, not just to the children with special needs, minsan kasi, yun nga, may sarili-sariling pace yung mga bata. So, minsan, they are labeled as delay. Parang kumbaga, okay, there's a delay na may diagnosis na, nadidelay pa lalo kasi the environment.
Tama. Pati yung ADHD, pag malikot, ADHD na daw.
Yes, yung anak ko ganun. Yung eldest ko po.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to follow through on what you mentioned na bakit kaya itong isang concept lang to pinapahaba. And that's the essence of mass education. Kasi po yung busy work. They have to stay in the school for several hours. Kapag matatapos sila kaagad ng gagawin nila, anong gagawin mo sa school? Busy work. They call that busy work. And it's one of the research work that I did. I don't want to be misconstrued na there's something wrong with online distance learning or modular or blended learning. No. Hindi ko sinasabi na hindi sila maganda. But it's just that some children cannot really conform to that kind of structured scheduling and mass education. Kasi nga, with the recognition that each child is really different. Kaya hindi siya po pwedeng pare-pareho talaga yung pacing. Like for example, paano kapag nagturo si teacher ng subtraction, wala sa mood yung bata or hindi siya nakapag-pay attention or sleepy siya or something. Tapos nagmubuan na yung lesson tapos hindi niya nakuha yung concept. So, yun yung isang mga danger doon. And of course, sabi nga nila, ang secret ng success ng bata sa learning, whether academic success or, learning success in general, is number 1, involved parenting. Number 2, one-on-one teaching. Or, pag marami sila magkakapatid, small group teaching kasi pag family. Expert yan si Teacher Alet kasi multiple level children pag magturo yan. She's been homeschooling for so many years, and she really is she really campaigns for homeschooling. Sabi nga niya, what di pa pinapanganak yung mga anak niya, homeschoolers na sila. So, yun po yung yung again, for those of you who are still with us, yun po yung beauty talaga po ng homeschooling. Now, I want to address one comment here na pag sinabing mag-aral na tayo tsaka nagkakaroon ng negative response yung bata. So, nakita ko rin yun sa anak ko na bunso. So, sabi niya, I don't like the word study. It's really is, I really hate that word. Okay, so sabi ko, let's not study. Let's just watch, this video about animals. Okay. Oh, do you know Dr. Binox? Maybe, she's talking about this, the planets. Let's not study. Let's just watch it. Okay, so let's explore the different colors nga. Mag-artwork na nga lang tayo. Alam mo ba na pag pinag-combine mo yung blue at saka yellow, nagiging green? Let's not study, no? So you just have to relabel it. Ayan po. So again, thank you so much everyone for joining us today. Thank you Teacher Larcy and all those who shared. Maraming salamat po. We will have other events like this so we can share, and perhaps yung mga makakapag-experience na mag-share din ng mga magiging helpful ways for us to homeschool more effectively and happily. And thank you for joining us today. And we would also like to acknowledge the presence of Dr. Marlu Bersamin Kuntangan and Mom Joy of Hillcrest Registrar. Sila yung mga forward thinkers. The reason why we can homeschool more effectively, legally, and joyfully is because we have partners with these kinds of thinking na very open to new learnings, to new ways of learning, and of course different paths of making education work. So maraming salamat po, parent leaders. Thank you for joining us. And thank you so much. Thank you din po. So if you have questions, you can message us anytime. Right now, medyo busy lang po kami kasi we're trying to release all the report cards of those transferring out dahil po magjo-join na ng face-to-face classes, magma-migrate po sila, or magtatrabaho na daw po sila. Hindi na po sila mag-homeschool. Pero sana po yung parenting with presence nandun pa rin kahit hindi na po sila nag-homeschool. Okay, for those of you who are joining us, welcome po, and let's learn together. Ayan po.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to close na the meeting, and we'll see you again in our next event.
Okay. But you have to give me game, huh? The game for the TV.
Yes, Maggie.
Okay, bye. Nah, I will. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I will like
See you in our bolt-ins. Bye-bye.
I don't have to watch.
Yes, we recorded this po, Mami Jessie.
I will come back on you. I will come back.
Yeah, I would welcome you back, and I would love to see you again. Hello,
Yeah.
Mami Mylene, maraming salamat din po for joining
Bye.
us.
Give me the game later, okay? Bye.
Yes. Bye-bye.